Chapter 3573. The moment Zhuowen agreed to the Great Guardian's request, the surrounding area fell silent. Originally, everyone thought that Zhuowen would definitely find all kinds of reasons and excuses to refuse and not agree to the Great Guardian's request for a life and death battle. But now, Zhuowen had agreed so readily. Many people did not expect this and fell into silence. The Great Guardian was also startled. He was also a little surprised. He had not expected Zhuowen to agree so readily. As for the saintess on the high platform, when she saw Zhuowen agree so readily, her beautiful eyes revealed a look of worry. She had made up her mind that once Zhuowen showed signs of being defeated on the life and death arena, she would immediately take action. Although her cultivation was only at the second blight, and she was no match for the Great Guardian, she knew that even if she took action, the Great Guardian would not really kill her. After all, she was the saintess of the Demon Saint Palace, and was the person that the Demon Saint valued the most. Humph! The banquet is about to begin. After the banquet is over, the life and death battle will begin. You should cherish the time you have left. The Great Guardian looked at the sky and said indifferently. In his eyes, Zhuowen was already a dead man. Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent as he said, "The time before the banquet begins is enough for me to get rid of you on the life and death arena. Let's go to the life and death arena now." When Zhuowen's words came out, everyone was in an uproar. No one expected that Zhuowen would be in such a hurry to go to the life and death arena. Wasn't he in a hurry to court death? The Great Guardian was startled and immediately grinned. "It seems that you are in a hurry to reincarnate. In that case, I will fulfill your wish. The life and death arena is not far from here. Follow me." With that, the Great Guardian stood up and walked to the east side of the central square. Zhuowen remained silent. He slowly stood up and followed closely behind the first protector. The other protectors followed closely behind him as well. The Divine Horn Guardian sighed and shook his head secretly. He knew that Zhuowen was too impulsive. He actually agreed to a life and death duel with the Great Guardian. He was overestimating himself. He knew that Zhuowen was at the third heaven's blight, but the head law enforcer was at the fourth heaven's blight. There was a difference of a large realm between them. No matter how heaven-defying this child was, he couldn't be the head law enforcer's match. "I'm starting to regret recruiting him into the Demon Saint Palace," the Godhorn Protector muttered to himself. Because of what Zhuowen had done, the Great Protector would have even more reasons to mess with him. Zhuowen's death was one thing, but it had also harmed him. Thinking of this, the Godly Horn Guardian could not help but blame Zhuowen. As for Sun Hong, he had already been helped up. His injuries were very serious, especially the meridians in his body that had been destroyed by a strange power. If he wanted to completely recover, he had no idea how much time and materials he would need. "Take me there. I want to see this Zhuowen being killed by the Great Protector with my own eyes." Sun Hong's eyes were red, and he roared as if he had lost his mind. The life and death ring was indeed not far from the central square. After walking out of the square, it took about a few minutes to reach it. The life and death ring was very large, and it was surrounded by extremely powerful restrictions. Generally, the disciples of the Demon Saint Palace would come to the life and death ring for a fight to the death when they wanted to use force to resolve a conflict. On the life and death ring, it would only end when one side died. Otherwise, they would have to keep fighting. This was the rule of the life and death ring. The Great Protector removed the restrictions around the life and death ring and jumped onto the life and death ring. His body was as straight as a spear as he looked down at Zhuowen and said, "Zhuowen, why aren't you coming up to die?" Zhuowen walked up the stairs of the life and death ring step by step, and finally stopped in front of the Great Protector. Whoosh! The instant the two stood on the life and death ring, the Great Protector threw out the formation flag in his hand. Instantly, the restrictions around the life and death ring rippled violently. Then, the restrictions closed again. The Holy Maiden stood at the edge of the life and death ring and looked at the closed restrictions. Her pretty face changed slightly, and she said to the Great Protector in a deep voice, "Great Protector, the life and death rings restrictions are not allowed to close during the life and death battle. You're violating the rules." The Great Protector was indifferent and said indifferently, "Holy Maiden is worrying too much. Usually, the life and death battles are basically the disciples of the palace. Those are all small fights, and the battle ripples produced are not very strong. But Protector Zhua and I are different. At the same time, the energy ripples transmitted from a battle between half-step breaking Heaven Realm powerhouses are extremely terrifying. The life and death ring might not be able to withstand it. This restriction is also for the sake of precaution, to prevent the energy from shooting out violently and injuring the spectators." The Holy Maiden frowned slightly, and her beautiful eyes looked at Zhuowen, revealing a worried expression. She knew the reason why the Great Protector did this. This was to prevent her from interfering in the life and death battle. However, after seeing Zhuowen's indifferent expression, she was slightly relieved. Zhuowen was her husband after all. She understood Zhuowen very well and knew that Zhuowen would never casually do something that he was not confident in. Since Zhuowen agreed to the life and death battle so readily, he probably had a certain chance of winning. Even if he really was not the Great Protector's match, Zhuowen should also have a corresponding escape method. This Zhuowen is really overestimating his abilities. Not only does he dare to provoke the Great Protector, he even publicly wants to have a life and death battle with the Great Protector. If this isn't courting death, what is? Protector Lu Yin crossed her arms over her chest and said with a sneer, around the life and death ring. Many onlookers also looked at the two people on the life and death ring calmly. They also felt that this Zhuowen was too impulsive. One had to know that there were not many Fourth Blight powerhouses in the monster domain. The Great Protector was at the early stage of the Fourth Blight and was definitely one of the top powerhouses in the monster domain. Although they couldn't see through this Zhuowen's specific cultivation, this person could only be a guest protector of the Monster Saint Palace. Obviously, his strength was very ordinary. Such a person challenging the Great Protector was no different from courting death. Sun Hong, who was supported by his subordinates, glared fiercely at Zhuowen on the life and death ring. He was imagining the scene of Zhuowen being instantly killed by the Great Protector. Below the ring, except for the cultivators of Golden Silk Sect and Divine Peng Sect, no one was optimistic about Zhuowen. The Great Protector is in big trouble. He actually dared to provoke little brother Zhua. Hung Wu crossed his arms and grinned as he muttered in a low voice. Back then, because he underestimated Zhuowen, he was beaten half to death by Zhuowen. If it weren't for Zhuowen showing mercy, he would have already died. Xianya looked at the Great Protector with a pitiful look. She knew very well that the Great Protector's fate might be even more miserable than Hung Wu's. You seem to be very calm. In fact, I'm also very curious. Where did you get the confidence to agree to a life and death battle with me? The Great Protector stood opposite of Zhuowen and was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he asked indifferently, I should say, where did you get the confidence to have a life and death battle with me? Zhuowen responded indifferently. Chapter 3574. The Great Protector is about to make his move. Everyone in the audience also felt the terrifying aura coming from the Great Protector's body. They all cheered up and looked at the two people on the stage with excitement, looking forward to the next battle. Ha, this Zhuowen should be killed in seconds. Protector Lu Yen crossed her arms and sneered disdainfully. The Saintess was anxious. Although she believed that Zhuowen would have a backup plan, she still couldn't help but worry. After all, the Great Protector's cultivation was much higher than Zhuowen's, so it was inevitable that something unexpected would happen. Bang! At this moment, the Great Protector on the stage had already attacked. He shot out like an arrow and arrived in front of Zhuowen in the blink of an eye. A terrifying aura as vast as the ocean spread out in all directions, and then like a hurricane, it crushed Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen stood in place, motionless. The storm formed by the endless pressure swept over his body, blowing his long hair and fluttering his clothes. He was like a long spear, standing in the wind, majestic and unyielding. When the Great Protector's attack was almost within reach, a mysterious and vast purple light suddenly burst out from Zhuowen's body. The purple light swept out like a storm, as if purple stars were bursting out. Zhuowen's aura also rose at this moment, and in an instant it suppressed the Great Protector's vast aura. At the same time, Zhuowen had already thrown out a punch, and a purple light soared into the sky, as if it was going to pierce through the sky. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the two fists collided, and a series of muffled thunder-like sounds rang out. It was continuous, as if it was endless. Deng, deng, deng. The Great Protector let out a muffled groan and retreated a few steps. He steadied himself and stared at Zhuowen, who stood as still as a spear. At this moment, Zhuowen's whole body was exuding a purple light. Even his black hair turned into an illusory purple under the purple light. You are only at the early stage of the third blight. How can you have such a powerful aura and power? Chief Enforcer was shocked. He stared at the young man in front of him in disbelief. When Zhuowen attacked, he did notice that Zhuowen was only at the early stage of the third blight, but whether it was aura or power, Zhuowen was above him. This was too unbelievable. Was this really an early stage third blight cultivator? This was too heaven-defying. Countless people below the stage were also taken aback. They were all in a mess. Early stage fourth blight and early stage third blight were an entire major realm apart. Originally, early stage fourth blight cultivators should completely crush early stage third blight cultivators. But now, this advantage was completely reversed. Instead, the early stage of the third blight had the upper hand. Was this world crazy? Protector Lu Yen, who was watching the show with her arms crossed, couldn't help glaring at Yang Kai. Sun Hong, whose eyes were filled with malevolence, was completely dumbfounded. The holy maiden, who was originally worried, let out a sigh of relief. She was a little surprised that Zhuowen was so strong. At the same time, she blamed this guy for not telling her the truth last night. Great Guardian, have you not eaten? A dignified fourth blight cultivator only has this much strength. This is too weak. Just when everyone, including the Great Protector, was stunned, Zhuowen opened his mouth. What he said made everyone feel dizzy. This guy was too cocky. You're courting death. Just now, I didn't use my full strength, allowing your sneak attack to succeed. Now, you won't be so lucky. This old master will use his full strength and kill you in one move. The Great Guardian was furious. He took a step forward and attacked with all his strength. It had to be said that the Great Guardian was indeed strong. At least, he was stronger than Hung Wu. Obviously, the Great Guardian was not far from the middle stage of the fourth blight. Pung, pung, pung. In just an instant, the two fought again. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged dozens of moves. The aftermath of the battle between the two was too terrifying. The surrounding barriers trembled violently as if they would collapse at any moment. Zhuowen threw a punch. Purple light filled the sky, and instantly, the great guardian was forced to retreat. At the same time, Zhuowen took out a golden claw. It was the golden-winged rock claw. He had obtained it from Hongwu. The golden-winged rock claw's power was comparable to a half-step, heaven-breaking divine artifact. The great guardian clearly didn't expect Zhuowen to suddenly use the golden-winged rock claw. Zhuowen grabbed empty air, and the golden claw blasted into his abdomen, penetrating it and annihilating it. Puchi, the great guardian, spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. He looked at the golden claw in Zhuowen's hand in horror. The blood on it was all his. The great guardian's face was pale. "This is the golden-winged rock claw of the Godpeng sect. How did you get it?" "Naturally. It was given to me by the Godpeng sect's old ancestor, Hongwu. Our relationship is very good. In order to prevent me from being bullied, he gave it to me," Zhuowen said casually. At the same time, he was shocked at the power of the golden-winged rock claw. It could actually injure an early-stage fourth blight expert like the Great Guardian. After Zhuowen finished speaking, everyone's gazes simultaneously fell onto Hong Wu, who was below the stage. Hong Wu's face turned red. He couldn't say that he had been beaten up by Zhuowen and that the golden-winged rock claw had been stolen by him. Cough, cough. This golden-winged rock claw was indeed given to Great Guardian Zhuo by me. Great Guardian Zhuo and I are like brothers, so I naturally can't mistreat him. Therefore, I gave him this golden-winged rock claw to protect himself. Hong Wu's expression was calm, but his heart was pained. This golden-winged rock claw was the strongest divine artifact passed down by the Godpeng sect's ancestors. He was originally going to shamelessly ask Zhuowen for it after the banquet ended, but now that Zhuowen had said so, no matter how thick his face was, he wouldn't ask for it from Zhuowen. Zhuowen floated in midair and once again used the golden-winged rock claw to smash towards the chief guardian. At the same time, Zhuowen suddenly flashed out and descended before the chief guardian like a bolt of lightning. Bang, bang, bang. With Zhuowen's golden-winged rock claw, the great guardian was not a match at all. He was in a state of being beaten up. Everyone below the stage was dumbfounded. Didn't the great guardian say that he would use his full strength to kill Zhuowen in one move? What was the situation now? Zhuowen wasn't killed, and he was about to be killed. Puchi, the great guardian, spat out another mouthful of blood and retreated. His body was already dripping with blood, and his aura was weak. He had suffered a very serious injury. "Zhuowen, I want you to die." The great guardian roared angrily, and his aura surged instantly. He actually burned his essence blood and was going to fight Zhuowen to the death. Zhuowen sneered and used the torch dragon's eye to find the great guardian's weakness. Then he summoned his clone and merged with his original body. His aura surged instantly. Zhuowen attacked again and clashed head-on with the great guardian, who was burning his essence blood. Then the great guardian's body burst into a bloody mist, and he fell from the sky in a sorry state. He was extremely dispirited. Your aura has become stronger again. What's your cultivation level?" The great guardian crawled up with difficulty and knelt on the ground. He raised his head and looked at Zhuowen, who was walking towards him slowly. He ignored the blood in his mouth and asked in disbelief. Chapter 35, 75. At this moment, the entire arena was silent as everyone's eyes involuntarily fell on the life or death ring and the figure standing straight up like a javelin. The great protector of Monster St. Palace, who held the highest authority in Monster St. Palace, was lifted up like a dead dog by this person's hand, unable to resist at all. This contrast was so great that it made everyone feel like they were being tossed in the wind. This great protector, he actually lost. Protector Lu Yen, who had her arms crossed in front of her chest and was full of confidence, almost bit her tongue when she saw this scene. Her eyes bulging, Sun Hong's legs went soft, and if it weren't for the people around him supporting him, he would have already fallen to his knees. The saintess let out a sigh of relief and gave Zhuowen a slightly reproachful look. This guy's strength is so great. Why didn't he tell me last night? However, seeing that Zhuowen was safe and sound and had even defeated the Great Protector, the saintess felt very happy and proud for Zhuowen. Heng Wu, Xianya, and the others all showed knowing expressions. After all, they had personally witnessed Zhuowen's strength and had not been optimistic about the Great Protector's chances from the beginning. Protector Zhuo, don't kill me. I am the Great Protector of Monster Saint Palace. If you kill me, you will offend the entire Monster Saint Palace. The Great Protector weakly begged for mercy as he finally felt fear in his heart. You and I have both stepped onto the life or death ring. If I don't kill you, how can I end this life or death battle? Zhuowen taunted. The Great Protector felt the murderous intent in Zhuowen's eyes and shuddered, the fear in his heart reaching an extreme. He knew that this young man in front of him really wanted to kill him. Pucci. Zhuowen's right hand surged with a terrifying, shattering divine force and poured it into the Great Protector's body through his neck. In an instant, the Great Protector's entire body exploded into a bloody mist. Pung. However, after this bloody mist exploded, it immediately floated away and reformed into the Great Protector's figure. However, the Great Protector's face was extremely pale, and his breathing was rapid. The aura on his body was extremely weak. A fourth Blight Cultivator's life force was even more terrifying than a third Blight Cultivator. Back then, Zhuowen had to spend a lot of effort to kill a third Blight Cultivator. So this fourth Blight Cultivator was naturally not so easy to kill. However, Zhuowen's shattering divine force, the Great Protector was extremely uncomfortable and was struggling to resist the shattering divine force in his body. The Great Guardian didn't dare to stay on the life and death platform for too long. He waved an array flag and tried to undo the array formation restriction around the life and death platform. The array flag shot out, and the powerful array restriction around the life and death ring immediately disappeared. The head protector quickly rushed out. However, when the protector arrived at the edge of the life and death arena, a powerful ripple of formations suddenly extended over. Afterwards, the protector was directly repelled by the ripple. He spat out a mouthful of blood and became even more dispirited and dispirited. The Great Protector looked at the Great Protector in disbelief. This is a trap formation, and it's a half-step Heavenbreaker formation. Why is there a trap formation on the life and death stage? Immediately after, the Great Guardian heard the crisp sound of footsteps. He abruptly turned around and saw Zhuo when leisurely walking over with a mocking smile on his face. You set up this trap formation? You're also a half-step Heavenbreaker formation master. The Great Protector thought of a possibility and said in disbelief. Zhuowen did not answer. Instead, he took out his golden rock claw and attacked the Great Protector again. This trap formation was indeed set up by Zhuowen. He knew very well that the formation around the life and death stage was controlled by the Great Protector. If the Great Protector saw that the situation was bad and ran away, it was very likely that he would use the formation around the life and death stage to stop him. Therefore, just in case, Zhuowen secretly had his doppelganger set up a top-level trapping formation in the Great World. Then, when his doppelganger merged with his true body, he set up the trapping formation at the edge of the life and death ring. However, he did not expect that it would come in handy now. Splat! The Great Protector was pierced through by the golden rock claw again, and his entire body collapsed again. His strength had dropped too much, and he was no match for Zhuowen at all. If this continued, he would eventually be exhausted to death by Zhuowen. Meanwhile, the countless people below the stage were all stunned when they saw the Great Protector being beaten to the point of collapse again and again. They had never seen the Great Protector in such a sorry state before. In the past, the Great Protector had always been majestic and lofty. However, now he was being beaten to such a state by a cultivator who was a major cultivation stage lower than him. It was simply too tragic. When the Great Protector's body collapsed again under the golden rock claw, his body showed no signs of reforming. He had already been exhausted to the point where he could no longer reform his body. A ball of light shot out from the Great Protector's collapsed body, and then it quickly fled out of the life and death stage. Zhuowen knew that it was the Great Protector's soul, but he was not in a hurry. He had set up a trap array around the life and death stage. So where could the Great Protector escape to? In the end, he could only wander around the life and death stage. However, soon, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly because he felt a vast and boundless aura surging out from the depths of the Demon Saint Palace. Then, in the sky above the life and death stage, a huge 9-story pagoda fell and smashed into the trap array on the life and death stage. Crack! 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 The trap array trembled violently and made a strange sound that made one's hair stand on end. Then, a crack appeared at the top of the trap array. The Great Protector's soul, which was originally wandering around the edge of the trap array, quickly flew over and entered the 9-story pagoda. After the Great Protector's soul was taken away, the 9-story pagoda did not continue to attack the trap array. Instead, it flew back into the sky with a whoosh and gradually became smaller, finally falling into a palm. Zhuowen stood in the dimly lit entrapment array. He raised his head and looked at the black-robed, middle-aged man in the sky with narrowed eyes. Countless cultivators below the stage also noticed the scene just now. They looked up at the sky and exclaimed one after another, "Lord Demon Saint has come out." That was a 9-story pagoda just now, right? Its power is really terrifying. Just one hit, and it blasted a hole in a half-step heaven-breaker trap array, as expected of the Demon Saint's most powerful divine artifact. Now that Lord Demon Saint has appeared, it seems like the Great Protector's life is saved. I wonder how the Demon Saint will deal with Zhuowen. After all, he almost killed the Great Protector. It shouldn't be. After all, Zhuowen and the Great Protector were fighting head-on. Both sides were willing, so it's inevitable that there would be casualties in a battle. The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone subconsciously looked at Zhuowen on the stage, their eyes full of pity. They knew that if the Demon Saint really blamed him, this child would not be able to bear the consequences. The Saintess also had a worried expression on her face. She gritted her teeth and made up her mind. If the Demon Saint really blamed Zhuowen, she must protect Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen was very powerful, and even the Great Protector was no match for him, the Demon Saint was different. The Demon Saint was a big shot who had survived from ancient times until now and had just broken through to the 5th blight. His strength was not something the Great Protector could compare to. Chapter 3576. Heng Wu and Xianya's expressions turned solemn, their eyes filled with dread. The two of them could be considered to be at the top of the demon realm. However, they knew that in front of the beast overlord, their cultivation was still insufficient. Even if they thought highly of Zhuowen, they didn't think that Zhuowen would be a match for the beast overlord. Below the stage, many cultivators showed a fanatical look of worship when they saw the beast overlord. Dong Huang Tai held the 9-story pagoda in his right hand. Then, a ball of light appeared at the bottom of the pagoda. Inside the ball of light was a small figure with the face of the great guardian Sun Hongru. It was the great guardian's soul. At this moment, the great guardian's soul floated above Dong Huang Tai's palm and complained, "Lord Beast Overlord, you must uphold justice for me. This Zhuowen is our Beast Overlord Palace's new guest guardian. I've treated him well, but he repaid my kindness with ingratitude and used underhanded means to harm me. He almost killed me. Me. Lord Beast Overlord, this kind of ungrateful person must not be allowed to live. He must be executed on the spot." Dong Huang Tai glanced at the great guardian's soul. Then his gaze fell on Zhuowen, on the arena of life and death. "Do you admit to your crimes?" Zhuowen raised his head and mocked. "What crimes have I committed?" For the sake of his own selfishness, this old bastard targeted me in every way, and he didn't even hesitate to kill me. He was the one who proposed this death match. Wasn't it to get rid of me? What he didn't expect was that my strength exceeded his expectations, and in the end, he fell into my hands. I lost on the arena of life and death, so it was only right for me to kill him. Instead, you interfered. Do you admit to your crimes? Zhuowen looked directly at Dong Huang Tai, his voice loud and clear, so loud that even the deaf could hear it. F***CK. This guy has guts. He dares to retort in front of Lord Beast Overlord, and even asks if Lord Beast Overlord knows his crimes. Is this guy tired of living? Did this guy's confidence inflate too much after defeating the Great Guardian? Does he think he's invincible? How dare he question Lord Beast Overlord? Is he courting death? Almost everyone below the stage was stunned. They were shocked to the extreme by Zhuowen's words. The demonic beast saint was the highest ruler of the demonic beast domain, and also the strongest. He had absolute authority in the demonic beast domain. For many years, no one dared to question the demonic beast saint face to face. But now, someone had really done such a thing. Moreover, he had even questioned the demon saint. How bold of him! Hung Wu and Xianya glanced at each other, their minds in a mess. They knew that this Zhuowen was indeed extremely daring, but they still found that they had greatly underestimated this guy. This guy's guts were even bigger than the heavens, questioning Dong Huang Tai in public. How big of a heart was this? Dong Huang Tai frowned slightly. Now that he was here personally, this lad actually dared to refute him and even question him. This was the first time he was questioned in front of his face ever since he became a demon overlord. The great guardian is indeed in the wrong, but he doesn't deserve death. Your killing intent is too strong, and your entire body is filled with killing intent. How about this? You come with me to the demonic beast temple and reflect on your mistakes for 100 years. If you can repent, I will set you free. Dong Huang Tai's voice was indifferent, but it carried an unquestionable meaning. The saintess' expression changed slightly. Just as she was about to plead for mercy, Zhuowen spoke again. You want me to go to the demonic beast temple? That depends on whether you have the ability to make me go to the demonic beast temple. As soon as these words came out, everyone's forehead was full of black lines. They had seen arrogant people before, but they had never seen such an arrogant person. The demonic beast saint was a dignified 5th blight expert. You're at most a 4th blight expert. In front of the demonic beast saint, you're completely lacking. You actually dare to question the demonic beast saint's ability? The demonic beast saint was also stunned. This was the first time he had seen such an arrogant person. He felt a little embarrassed and planned to suppress him. In that case, I have nothing else to say to you. Today, you will go even if you don't want to. After the demonic beast saint finished speaking, He held the 9-story pagoda in his right hand and suddenly pressed down with his left hand. Suddenly, the wind and clouds in the sky changed. As the demonic beast saint pressed down with his hand, a terrifying energy formed an earth-shattering giant palm that quickly pressed down on Zhuowen, who was on the life and death platform below. At this moment, all the cultivators below the life and death platform retreated in fear. This was the demonic beast saint. The power of this attack was too terrifying. If they were accidentally affected, they would definitely suffer a great loss. At the same time, they had already regarded Zhuowen as a dead man in their hearts. They didn't think that Zhuowen could survive under the demonic beast saint's suppression. The saintess didn't retreat, but instead rushed forward and rushed to the life and death platform. Now, her heart was in a mess. She never thought that things would develop to this point. Even the demonic beast saint had to deal with Zhuowen. Zhuowen stood quietly on the life and death platform. The moment the demonic beast saint attacked, a ray of light erupted from between his eyebrows. This ray of light was too blazing. It was like the essence of the sun, containing boundless power. Then, this ray of light instantly left between Zhuowen's eyebrows and suddenly soared into the sky. Only then did everyone see that the shape of this ray of light was actually an extremely huge light sword. Moreover, this light sword had an extremely terrifying sword intent that spread in all directions. It was extremely terrifying. Boom! The moment the palm fell from the sky and collided with the light sword, terrifying energy ripples burst out. However, the palm was quickly destroyed by the light sword. The light sword soared into the sky and landed on Dong Huang Tai's body. No one noticed that the moment Dong Huang Tai was hit by the light sword, his body stiffened for a moment, as if he was a corpse. At the same time, Zhuowen moved. He took a step into the sky and quickly approached Dong Huang Tai. Then he reached out his right hand and grabbed the soul of the great guardian that was floating above Dong Huang Tai. Then Zhuowen quickly retreated and landed on the life and death platform. What? This guy broke the Beast Overlord's attack and even took the great guardian's soul from the Beast Overlord. How is this guy going to get there? Countless cultivators who were originally watching a good show were petrified when they saw the scene just now. Even the saintess who rushed over stopped in place and stared blankly at the scene. She had yet to react to what had just happened. At this moment, Zhuowen was holding the great guardian's soul. His face was pale, and cold sweat covered his forehead. He raised his head and looked at Dong Huang Tai in the sky. He frowned and muttered in a low voice. Although Dong Huang Tai's cultivation is only at the early stage of the 5th decay, his soul has already reached the peak of the 5th decay. So powerful! My divine soul sword intent is already terrifying enough, but it only lightly injured his divine soul. At that moment, Zhuowen had indeed used one of his trump cards, the soul sword intent. Zhuowen's soul was extremely powerful, far exceeding his cultivation. It had already reached the peak of the 5th decay. The soul sword intent formed by it was enough to pose a threat to 5th decay cultivators. Chapter 35:77. Although Zhuowen's soul sword intent didn't seriously injure Dong Huang Tai, it at least caused some hindrance. Otherwise, Zhuowen wouldn't have been able to snatch the great guardian's soul from Dong Huang Tai so easily. Moreover, Zhuowen could clearly see that Dong Huang Tai's body was still very stiff at this moment. Apparently, he was still resisting his soul sword intent. However, the aura around Dong Huang Tai suddenly erupted at that moment, dissipating into the sky, forming dazzling energy ripples as if it had gone berserk. After a long time, the violent energy around Dong Huang Tai gradually converged, and Dong Huang Tai's gaze fell on Zhuowen again. After a moment of silence, he said in a deep voice, "Your cultivation isn't at the 3rd blight." At this moment, Dong Huang Tai's heart was very unsettled. The moment Zhuowen's soul sword intent blasted into his soul, it set off a terrifying, tearing storm inside his soul world. The terrifying sword intent rampaged in his soul world, constantly destroying his soul power. If it weren't for his soul being far stronger than his cultivation, he felt that his soul would very likely be completely destroyed by this soul sword intent. At least he knew that if an ordinary fifth blight cultivator was hit by this soul sword intent, they would at least be seriously injured or even die. At this moment, Dong Huang Tai didn't dare to underestimate Zhuowen. He stared at Zhuowen, suspecting that the latter might be a fifth blight cultivator who hit his cultivation. Otherwise, how could he have such a powerful soul attack? What do you think? Zhuowen's eyes were vigilant, and he didn't answer directly. He made up his mind that if Dong Huang Tai continued to attack, he would use the 9 Tribulation Divine Sword to kill Dong Huang Tai, even if he had to expose the secret of the heaven-breaking divine weapon. Although he still had 2 soul sword intents in his soul world, he knew very well that soul attacks had to be unexpected, especially when Dong Huang Tai's soul power might not be as strong as his, but it wasn't far off. Once Dong Huang Tai was on guard, his divine soul attack would not have any effect on him. Lord Demon Overlord, this Zhuowen is really too arrogant. He actually dares to act so unbridled in front of you. You must take action and kill him completely. The soul of the Great Protector trembled in Zhuowen's palm. He hurriedly suggested to Dong Huang Tai to kill Zhuowen. Otherwise, the Great Protector's fate would be miserable. Noisy, Zhuowen coldly harumphed. He clenched his right fist and crushed the Chief Enforcer's divine soul. The Chief Enforcer's divine soul let out a miserable shriek and collapsed. No one had expected Zhuowen to not only snatch someone from Dong Huang Tai, but also kill someone in front of Dong Huang Tai. How big of a heart did he have to actually dare to do such a rebellious and arrogant act? However, what shocked everyone even more was that Dong Huang Tai did not have a big reaction. Instead, he remained silent, just when everyone thought that Dong Huang Tai would be enraged and kill Zhuowen again. Dong Huang Tai spoke. The Chief Enforcer's actions are indeed too much. Even if this fellow Taoist did not do it, I would have cleaned up the sect. However, the Chief Enforcer is an important position in my Demon Overlord Palace. Now that Sun Hongru has fallen, there must be a new successor. Fellow Taoist, you are my Demon Overlord Palace's guest enforcer, and your strength is extraordinary. You should be the new Chief Enforcer. Dong Huang Tai's words had just left his mouth when the crowd was in an uproar. Everyone looked at Dong Huang Tai in disbelief. No one had expected that not only did Dong Huang Tai not punish Zhuowen, he even promoted him. The Divine Horn Enforcer below the stage was in a daze. The corner of his mouth was full of bitterness. After the Chief Enforcer was killed by Zhuowen, his heart was filled with ecstasy. He knew that the Chief Enforcer was no longer around, and he was the most favorable candidate. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be the only candidate for the Chief Enforcer. But now, not only did Dong Huang Tai not blame Zhuowen, he even made Zhuowen the new Chief Enforcer. The Divine Horn Enforcer was unwilling and helpless. He knew that he no longer had the chance to become the new Chief Enforcer. Among the people present, only Hung Wu and Xian Ye saw the clues. Their point of view was completely different from the others. Just now, Zhuowen and Dong Huang Tai had only fought for a short time. It seemed like Zhuowen was at a disadvantage, but the two of them could clearly sense that Dong Huang Tai might have been injured by the light sword. Thinking of this, the two felt that it was inconceivable, but also reasonable. If Dong Huang Tai was unharmed, he would have suppressed Zhuowen directly to show his majesty as a demon overlord. But Dong Huang Tai did not do that. Instead, he comforted Zhuowen. In the eyes of outsiders, this action was to forgive Zhuowen and give Zhuowen a chance. But in the eyes of Heng Wu and Xianya, it was a sign that Dong Huang Tai was afraid of Zhuowen. Just how strong is this Zhuowen? Heng Wu and Xian looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. This person could make Dong Huang Tai give in. Just how strong is he? Is he also a fifth blight powerhouse? When everyone thought that Zhuowen would accept the position of chief enforcer, Zhuowen only said indifferently, "Demon Overlord, I might have to disappoint you. I'm not interested in the position of chief enforcer. I fought with Sun Hongru to the death, not because I coveted his position, but because he was too greedy. If chief enforcer really needs a successor, I'll recommend him to Divine Horn Enforcer. In Demon Overlord Palace, no one is more qualified than him to become chief enforcer." The moment Zhuowen refused, the people below the stage felt dizzy. This guy was simply too pretentious. Demon Overlord personally invited him to become chief enforcer, and he actually refused. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Dong Huang Tai was also startled. He looked at Divine Horn Enforcer and said, "Since that's the case, I won't force you. I'll let Divine Horn succeed the position of chief enforcer for the time being. Also, after this banquet, come to my Demon Overlord Palace. I have something to ask you." "No problem." Zhuowen did not refuse. Dong Huang Tai nodded and no longer paid attention to Zhuowen. He had everyone return to the square, and the banquet began. The banquet was very lively. There was no unhappy atmosphere because of Sun Hongru's death. Many representatives stood up and congratulated Dong Huang Tai for successfully advancing to the fifth blight. In addition, Zhuowen's seat was also very lively. Many representatives raised their cups and came to curry favor with Zhuowen. In the battle just now, many people could see that Zhuowen was not simple. After all, someone who could kill the Great Elder was not an ordinary person. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was sitting calmly in his seat. Anyone who came to get close to him was basically blocked by the Divine Horn Guardians. Since Zhuowen gave up the position of chief enforcer to Divine Horn Enforcer was very grateful to Zhuowen and respected him like a god. He knew that Zhuowen did not like to be disturbed, so he blocked most of the people who came to curry favor with him. Protector Lu Yen and Sun Hong knelt not far from Zhuowen, uneasy and pale. Chapter 3578. To Zhuowen, Sun Hong and Protector Lu Yen were just small fries. Although the two of them had targeted him before, he really couldn't be bothered to deal with them. Of course, Zhuowen didn't object to the two of them coming over to kneel and admit their mistakes. As for how long they had to kneel, Zhuowen didn't interfere. Actually, Zhuowen had also not taken the head protector seriously back then. However, the head protector was truly too arrogant and had even tried to kill Zhuowen. As such, Zhuowen could not be blamed for specifically dealing with the head protector. Protector Zhua. Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's Beast Temple is filled with many powerful spirit arrays and barriers. It is Eastern Emperor Tai Yi's lair, so I think it's best if you don't take any risks. During the banquet, Heng Wu and Xianya both sent him messages, advising him not to enter Beast Temple rashly in case the Beast Saint tried to harm him. Zhuowen reassured the two of them that he had his own decisions to make. Zhuowen looked at the high platform and saw the Saintess sitting next to Eastern Emperor Tai Yi, his eyes flashing. He knew that he was going to Beast Temple this time to have a good talk with the Beast Saint about Mu Qinxue. He knew very well that the Beast Saint had just broken through to the early Fifth Blight and had yet to fully consolidate his realm. What he needed the most now was a divine pill to consolidate his Fifth Blight. But in this starry sky, those who could concoct this kind of divine pill were definitely the most top-notch, half-step heaven-breaking great alchemists. In the monster domain, even ordinary half-step heaven break grade alchemists were difficult to find, let alone top half-step heaven break grade alchemists. And Zhuowen happened to be one of the top half-step heaven break grade alchemists. As long as Eastern Emperor Tai Yi had enough half-step heaven break grade divine pills, he could refine a divine pill to consolidate his fifth blight. And this was the bargaining chip he needed to get Mu Qinxue to leave Beast Saint Palace. After the banquet ended, the representatives of many forces bid farewell to Eastern Emperor Tai Yi, and even Heng Wu and Xianye left. However, the two of them still reminded Zhuowen before leaving. Dong Huang Tai stood up, glanced at Zhuowen, and suddenly disappeared from the square. Dong Huang Tai's sonorous voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. "Meet me at the Demon Saint Palace." "Husband, you must not go to the demonic beast temple. That place is the origin of the demon realm and has the densest demonic aura in the entire demon realm. Demon saints are the strongest in the Demon Saint Temple. If you go there, you'll be like a lamb in a tiger's den." Zhuowen stood up, and so did the Holy Maiden. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anxiety as she sent a voice transmission to Zhuowen. "It's all right. Believe in your husband. Even if the demon saint is at the peak of the fifth blight, I still have the ability to escape." Zhuowen transmitted a message back, then left the square and headed towards the Demon Saint Temple. He had a Heaven Breaker divine tool on him, and he also had the terrifying power of the ultimate Yin Flame. Even if this demon saint really did attack him, he wouldn't be afraid. The Holy Maiden looked at Zhuowen's back as he left. She sighed and followed him. The Demon Saint Temple was located at the core of the Demon Saint Palace. It was a magnificent palace. Moreover, the surface of the Demon Saint Temple was filled with extremely dense demonic aura. The demonic aura was so dense that it was almost tangible. At this moment, the door of the Demon Saint Temple was open, and it was pitch black inside. "Husband, I'll go in with you. If the demon saint really does harm to you, I might be able to help you." The Holy Maiden walked beside Zhuowen, her brows furrowed. "All right, come in with me." Zhuowen didn't refuse. Thus, the two of them entered the Demon Saint Temple. When they reached the deepest part of the Demon Saint Temple, the originally pitch-black hall suddenly lit up with clusters of blue flames. These blue flames floated in the air, emitting a faint blue light, mysterious and distant. Only then did Zhuowen realize that at the front of the hall there was a throne, and Dong Huang Tai was sitting on it. At the same time, there were pitch-black chains around the hall. These chains were as thick as an arm and emitted a cold light. Zhuowen discovered that there was a figure standing on each chain. The aura of these figures was extremely terrifying. The weakest was at the peak of the heaven-passing realm, and the strongest was at the peak of the fourth heaven's blight. However, the aura of death on these figures was very dense. The moment Zhuowen scanned these figures with his divine will, he immediately recognized that these were the corpses of the great shamans he had seen in the 9-story tower. However, these great shamans had been refined into corpse puppets by Dong Huang Tai and were completely under his control. "You're very bold to actually dare to come to the Demon Saint Temple. Tell me, what's your name?" Dong Huang Tai sat on the throne and looked down at Zhuowen. "My name is Zhuowen. I came to the Demon Saint Temple just to discuss something with you. As long as you agree to this, I can help you completely consolidate the early stage of the fifth decay in a short time." Zhuowen said calmly. The moment Dong Huang Tai heard Zhuowen's words, his pupils shrank, and he completely lost his calm. "You can help me consolidate the fifth decay." Dong Huang Tai's eyes flashed, and he sneered. "As far as I know, your cultivation is only at the third decay, but your divine soul is extremely powerful, and you know how to attack the divine soul." with your cultivation. How can you help me consolidate the fifth decay with your cultivation? Unless you're a top half-step heaven break alchemist. Unfortunately, not to mention the demon realm, even the heaven pass secret realm can't find a few top half-step heaven break alchemists. Dong Huang Tai shook his head. He felt that Zhuowen was talking nonsense. I'm a half-step heaven break alchemist. There are two kinds of elixirs that can consolidate the early stage of the fifth decay. They are the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill and the Fecta Nirvana Jade Pill. If you can get the materials for these two kinds of elixirs, then I can immediately refine these two kinds of elixirs for you and help you consolidate the realm. Zhuowen said calmly. Dong Huang Tai was startled at first, and then his eyes lit up. Of the two kinds of elixirs that Zhuowen mentioned, he had only heard of the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill. This kind of elixir was indeed a panacea for consolidating the early stage of the fifth decay. Before he broke through the early stage of the fifth decay, he had already searched for the ingredients for the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill so that he could use it to consolidate the realm after breaking through. However, he had collected almost all the ingredients, but he hadn't found an alchemist who could refine this kind of elixir. Originally, he had given up on using the elixir to consolidate the realm and planned to use time to consolidate the realm slowly. He didn't expect that Zhuowen would come to him. Moreover, Zhuowen could easily mention the Thousand Turns Jade Essence Pill. Obviously, he was not a weak, half-step heaven break alchemist. Okay, I'll give you a chance. If you can successfully refine the 1,000 revolving jade essence heavenly pill, I'll pretend that nothing happened, and you'll be able to keep your life. Dong Huang Tai said, solemnly. Chapter 35, 79. Dong Huang Tai narrowed his eyes, and his aura exploded. He coldly looked down at Zhuowen and said, What did you just say? You said the saintess is your wife. Zhuowen stood there, not being affected by Dong Huang Tai's aura at all, as he softly replied, That's right. She and I both came from the heavenly armor planet and are of the same origin. So we became husband and wife a long time ago. At this moment, Mu Qinxue also stood out and cupped her hands to Dong Huang Tai. Sir Monster Saint, I've told you before that I had a husband. You should know that I've been looking for my husband all these years. And now, my husband has found me. Dong Huang Tai fell silent. He did know that Mu Qinxue had a husband before, but that was a matter of the heavenly armor planet. He thought that even if Mu Qinxue's husband's talent wasn't bad, his cultivation should be very low. In Dong Huang Tai's eyes, the husband Mu Qinxue spoke of was nothing more than an insignificant ant. But now Zhuowen had appeared. He knew that the ant he thought of before was actually this strong. Qinxue, congratulations on finding your husband. How about this? You and your husband can be together again, but you are my monster saint after all, so you can't leave as you please. Since your husband is here, he can stay in the Monster Saint Palace with you in the future. I won't mistreat the two of you, Dong Huang Tai softly said. Dong Huang Tai, the Monster Saint Palace can't hold me. I feel like you should consider this carefully. I'll help you refine the 1,000 rotation jade, marrow heavenly pill, and help you consolidate your cultivation. Then my wife and I will leave the Monster Saint Palace. Zhuowen softly said. Dong Huang Tai revealed a smile, but his smile was very cold. He looked down at Zhuowen and said, Do you think you still have a choice? Your divine soul is indeed strong, but your cultivation is only at the third blight. The Monster Saint Palace is my home. In this place, my strength is the strongest. Even if a mid-fifth blight cultivator comes in, they won't be able to leave. If you want to live, you can only agree to my request. Otherwise, only death awaits. Mu Qinxue's expression changed slightly. She did not expect Dong Huang Tai to be so ruthless. He actually used forceful means to keep them here. However, when Mu Chinxue saw the calm look on Zhuowen's face, her heart calmed down. She had absolute trust in Zhuowen. She knew that Zhuowen would not act on impulse. Since he dared to come to the demon temple, it meant that he had the confidence to leave this place. At this moment, the figures with terrifying auras on the countless chains above the hall began to move. They turned into black afterimages, darting about in the air like ghosts in the night. Ha! In the Beast Saint Palace, I don't even need to do anything. My corpse puppets can tear you apart. These corpse puppets were all made from the corpses of powerful senior magi back in the ancient era, and are extremely powerful. You won't be a match for them. Dong Huang Tai's indifferent voice rang out in the hall. His voice was filled with confidence. He looked at Zhuowen with contempt and disdain in his eyes. He did not intend to kill Zhuowen directly. Instead, he intended to let the corpse puppets seriously injure Zhuowen, and then force him to hand over his divine soul imprint and become his slave. Not to mention that this person's strength was so powerful, the fact that he could refine the top half-step, heaven-breaking divine elixir proved how valuable he was. Once he had such a powerful alchemist at his disposal, the power of the Demon Saint Palace would rise to a higher level. At that time, even if the heaven-accessing place was much more powerful than the Demon Saint Palace, he was confident that he could catch up with them in a short time. But soon, Dong Huang Tai was stunned. He saw Zhuowen in the middle of the hall with a calm expression. He only moved his index finger slightly, and the golden ring on his index finger surged with a white flame. Clatter! The moment the white flame gushed out of the golden ring, it spread out like an evil fire snake and rose to the sky, forming a sea of fire all over the sky. This white flame did not contain a blazing temperature, but was filled with an incomparably cold and ancient chill. All the corpse puppets that rushed to Zhuowen were turned into ice sculptures the moment they touched the white flame. Then, the ice sculptures turned into powder in the surging flame. These flames were too terrifying, whether it was the peak ascending heaven corpse puppet or the terrifying fourth decay corpse puppet. None of them were able to escape being turned into countless ice shards the moment they touched the white flames. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. The ultimate in fire. No, how can you have this kind of flame? Stop it. Stop it right now. Dong Huang Tai was about to go crazy when he saw the white flame engulfing the corpse puppets. The ultimate Hanin flame. This was the most terrifying energy that would only descend when a cultivator was crossing the fifth blight. Dong Huang Tai had just entered the fifth blight, so he was impressed by the ultimate in fire. At that time, if it were not for his good fortune and some luck, he would have perished in this extreme Hanin fire. Moreover, the extreme Hanin fire of his fifth decay was only the size of a brazier. Even so, he was still being bombarded to the point of hovering between life and death. However, the extreme Hanin flame, released by Zhuowen, was simply too terrifying. It covered an area of several kilometers and was completely filled with extreme Hanin flame. And what made Dong Huang Tai's heart ache was that his corpse puppets were being destroyed at a speed visible to the naked eye in the ultimate in fire. These corpse puppets were refined by him after countless years of hard work. He even risked his life to steal the corpses of many great shamans to refine. It was because of these powerful corpse puppets that the Demon Saint Palace he established was able to stand at the peak of the demon realm. It was also because of these corpse puppets and the 9-story pagoda that he was able to establish the demon realm under the pressure of the Xianmi heavenly domain and the untainted desolation heavenly domain. But now, almost all of his corpse puppets were dying in the ultimate in fire. This was a heavy loss for him. When the last peak fourth blight corpse puppet was destroyed by the ultimate in fire, Zhuowen lazily put away the remaining ultimate in fire with the golden ring. He looked at Dong Huangtai with a questioning gaze. Although Zhuo Wen looked very calm on the surface, his heart was pained. Just now, he had used a third of the ultimate Yin fire. This kind of energy was too terrifying, but it was also consumed very quickly. If it wasn't for the golden ring, he wouldn't have been able to suppress this terrifying flame. Feeling Zhuo Wen's gaze, Dong Huangtai's scalp tingled. He finally knew that this Zhuo Wen knew he would harm him, but he still dared to come to the Demon Saint Palace. This guy wasn't stupid, but he had a powerful trump card and wasn't afraid of him at all. Dong Huangtai, what did you just say? In the Demon Saint Palace, I'm not your match at all? Are you saying that you want to fight me personally? Zhuo Wen looked at Dong Huangtai, his indifferent voice resounding in the empty palace. Mu Qinxue was still standing beside Zhuo Wen. She looked at the corpse puppets turning into ice shards and couldn't help but be stunned. She always knew that Zhuo Wen was very strong, but there should be a limit to this strength. In her view, Zhuo Wen came to the Demon Saint Palace with confidence, so he should have the confidence to escape. Chapter 3580. Mu Qinxue was very clear that these corpse puppets were the main force of Dong Huangtai's rule over the monster domain. Now that they had been completely burned by Zhuo Wen, Dong Huangtai would be crying without tears. This was a heavy loss. Dong Huangtai stood on the throne. After a long silence, he finally said, I promise you that as long as you can refine the 1,000 Revolution Jade, Marrow Heavenly Pill, you and the Saintess can leave the Monster Saint Palace and won't be bound by the Monster Saint Palace. All right, Chun Shui, and I will be in the Saintess Temple. Just send the 1,000 Revolution Jade, Marrow Heavenly Pill's ingredients to the Saintess Temple. When the time comes, I will help you refine the pill. After Zhuo Wen said this, he pulled the petrified Mu Qinxue and slowly left the Monster Saint Palace. When Zhuo Wen completely disappeared from the main hall, Dong Huangtai, who had been sitting on the throne, tightly gripped the armrests of the throne as the back of his hands turned pale. I never thought that Zhuo Wen would have this kind of trump card, Dong Huangtai muttered to himself with a bitter smile. With his strength, the Hanin flame would not be able to injure him, but it would make him run for his life. Once he fell into a disadvantage, Zhuo Wen could still escape the Monster Saint Palace. This was equal to completely offending Zhuo Wen. Dong Huangtai was very clear that Zhuo Wen's cultivation time was around the same as Mu Qinshue's, only a few thousand years. This child's talent was extraordinary. His cultivation was this terrifying at such a young age, and he even had such a powerful trump card. When Zhuo Wen's cultivation increased in the future, he might not be his match. If he completely offended him, he would be in big trouble in the future. This was also one of the conditions that he agreed to Zhuo Wen's request. What made Dong Huangtai reveal a bitter smile was that because of his miscalculation, his losses were too great. Almost all of his corpse puppets had been burned by the Hanin flame. These were all loyal to him and were willing to give up their lives for him. Forget it, forget it. If my fifth blight can be completely stabilized, even if Corpse Chief is lost, I can still support the entire fiend territory. Dong Huangtai sighed. Not long after Zhuo Wen and Mu Qinxue left the Beast Saint Temple, they encountered a figure. Lord Zhuo, why are you here? When the figure saw Zhuo Wen, he immediately stopped. His eyes were filled with awe as he bowed to Zhuo Wen. When Zhuo Wen saw this person, he immediately recognized her. She was Su Yuan, whom he had suppressed and then released. Young Master Su Yuan, you're here too. Are you looking for the Demon Saint? The moment Mu Qinxue saw this young man, her beautiful eyes immediately revealed a look of respect. She had heard of this Su Yuan when she returned. It was said that she came from the mysterious upper realm. She was a truly important figure. Even demonic saints had to treat her with caution. After all, Mu Chinxue was the holy maiden of the fiend territory and knew many secrets. She had also heard of the upper realm and knew that there were as many experts as clouds there. There were true heaven-breaking realm powerhouses, and this Su Yuan from the upper realm was naturally not an ordinary person in Mu Chinxue's eyes. She naturally had to treat him with caution. Oh, so it's the Holy Maiden. What a coincidence. I indeed came to find the demon saint for some matters. Su Yuan glanced at Mu Chinxue and merely nodded. He did not pay too much attention. Instead, he carefully looked at Zhuowen with an uneasy expression. Mu Chinxue saw Su Yuan's uneasy expression, and her beautiful eyes were filled with surprise. This was an important guest from the upper realm. Why did he look a little afraid of Zhuowen, especially Su Yuan's behavior? Mu Chinxue was very familiar with it. Normally, it was the kind of uneasiness a servant would show when facing their master. And the way Su Yuan addressed Zhuowen was actually adding the word Lord. What was going on? Su Yuan, go to the Beast Saint Palace. Don't worry about me. But if there are any results, remember to use the communication jade talisman to report to me. Zhuowen waved his hand. Su Yuan nodded repeatedly and slowly retreated. Mu Chinxue looked at Su Yuan, who left with his head lowered. She revealed a surprised expression and said, "Husband, you know young Master Su Yuan? His background is very great. So why is he so respectful to you?" Mu Chinxue stared closely at Zhuowen. She realized that in these years of separation, Zhuowen's rate of improvement was far beyond her imagination. Originally, she had thought that her rate of improvement was already very fast, but she had not thought that Zhuowen was even faster than her. Moreover, it was terrifyingly fast. Now, even the Beast Saint was suppressed by him. It was really terrifying. Zhuowen laughed and said, "It's a long story. When we return to the Saintess Palace, I will tell you in detail." With that, Zhuowen hugged Mu Chinxue. The latter's beautiful face blushed slightly, and she rolled her eyes at Zhuowen coquettishly. However, she did not break free from his embrace. Instead, she sweetly leaned on his chest. In the Beast Saint Palace, Su Yuan came to the main hall. Looking at Dong Huangtai, who was sitting on the throne and looking a little absent-minded, Su Yuan asked doubtfully, "Beast Saint, where is the great guardian Sun Hongru?" Su Yuan's physical body had just been completely repaired. As soon as he recovered, he sent a message to the great guardian, asking him to inform Dong Huangtai to meet him. However, the great guardian did not respond at all. Su Yuan had no choice but to go to the Beast Saint Palace by himself. Dong Huangtai came back to his senses. He looked at Su Yuan and sighed softly. "So it's young Master Su Yuan. I heard from the great guardian that you were injured before. Are you better now? Thank you for your concern, Beast Saint. My injuries are almost healed. However, after I recovered, the great guardian was not there. He didn't even reply to my message. Isn't he neglecting his duties?" Su Yuan was slightly displeased. "The great guardian has fallen," Dong Huangtai said, helplessly. "What? Had he fallen? Who did it?" Su Yuan's eyes flashed with killing intent as he said coldly, "The great guardian had always listened to him, and he had a good impression of the great guardian. Now that he knew that the great guardian had fallen, he was very displeased." Dong Huangtai looked at Su Yuan, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. This Su Yuan came from the upper realm. Although his cultivation was only at the peak of the third blight, this guy had a very strong backer. Moreover, he heard from the great guardian that Su Yuan had a heaven breaker artifact. With such a divine artifact, he could do whatever he wanted in this galaxy. Even if he had just advanced to the fifth blight in front of a heaven breaker artifact, he was completely trash. If Su Yuan was willing to make a move, then no matter how strong Zhuowen was, he would still be trash. The Great Guardian was killed by a guest guardian of the Beast Saint Palace named Zhuowen. This kid is extremely arrogant, but he is very strong. He also has the terrifying tribulation energy of the ultimate Hanin fire. Young Master Su Yuan, you have a Heaven Breaker artifact, and your strength is monstrous. If you make a move, this Zhuowen will be easily captured. I hope that young Master Su Yuan can make a move and avenge the Great Guardian. As the Beast Saint spoke, he quickly realized that something was wrong. This was because he noticed that Su Yuan's face had become very pale and bloodless. Even his body was trembling. Good kill, Su Yuan suddenly shouted. Chapter 3581. Young Master Su Yuan. You. Dong Huang Tai looked at young Master Su Yuan, who was flustered and exasperated. Weren't you the one who was praising the Great Guardian's loyalty at the start? After hearing about the Great Guardian's death, you were filled with murderous intent, as if you were determined to take revenge. Why did you suddenly shrink back? You even said that it was a good thing to kill him. Are you sure you're angry for the Great Guardian and want to take revenge for him? Wasn't this style changing a little too fast? I said it was a good thing that the Great Guardian died. If I wasn't there, Master Zhuo wouldn't even have to do anything. I would have killed that idiot. Su Yuan was trembling with anger. When he found out that the Great Guardian had offended Zhuowen, he was scared out of his wits. He knew that the Great Guardian and Zhuowen had some conflicts. The Great Guardian had even threatened to kill Zhuowen in front of him. At that time, Su Yuan had already warned the Great Guardian not to offend Zhuowen because he couldn't afford to offend him. Unfortunately, the Great Protector didn't listen to his suggestion and actually wanted to deal with Zhuowen. In the end, he died. Because of it, he deserved it. At the same time, Su Yuan was terrified. The Great Protector was usually very close to him and had become his follower. If Zhuowen knew about this, would he blame him for what had happened to the Great Guardian? Thinking of this, Su Yuan's body trembled. He made up his mind to go to Zhuowen and ask for forgiveness. After all, his soul imprint was still with Zhuowen. His life was completely in the hands of Zhuowen. He couldn't be careless about this. Dong Huang Tai was in a bad mood. What was going on? Su Yuan was a powerhouse from the upper realm and had a heaven-breaking artifact. Even he was afraid of him. Why did Su Yuan sound like he was afraid of Zhuowen? Dong Huang Tai shook his head. He felt that this idea was unrealistic. Even though Zhuowen was strong, he was only a living being of the lower dimensions in the end, and the gap between him and Su Yuan could be said to be like the gap between the heavens and the earth. They couldn't be compared at all. Perhaps Su Yuan was too excited, so she made a slip of the tongue. Dong Huang Tai comforted himself. However, he soon felt that something was amiss. Su Yuan seemed to have mentioned Lord Zhuowen. Could the Lord Zhuo she was talking about be Zhuowen? But how was that possible? He must have misheard. No, Demon Saint, come with me to where Lord Zhuo is. We must apologize to him. Otherwise, not only will I be finished, but your Demon Saint Palace will be finished as well. The more Su Yuan thought about it, the paler his face became. His gaze turned serious as he spoke to Dong Huang Tai. Is it that serious? Dong Huang Tai was dumbfounded and had a strange look in his eyes. He wondered if Su Yuan had lost her mind. She was an expert from the higher realms with a noble status and a heaven-breaking grade divine item. Why was she acting so cowardly now? Young Master Su Yuan, who is this lord you're talking about? Dong Huang Tai braced himself and asked tentatively. Su Yuan said impatiently, "It's that Zhuowen." Back then, I told the great enforcer not to look for Lord Zhuo. He's not someone he can afford to offend. That guy didn't listen to me. He deserved to die. Forget it, demon saint. Now is not the time to talk about this. We must go and apologize. Otherwise, our lives will be in danger. Dong Huangtai was dumbfounded. The Lord Zhua that Su Yuan was talking about was really Zhuowen. He felt as if his soul had been hit by a torrent. It was suffocating. Young Master Su Yuan, that Zhuowen is just a cultivator from the lower dimensions. If you were to attack him, he would be nothing. You don't have to be so afraid of him, right? Dong Huangtai couldn't help but ask. Su Yuan said coldly, Demon Saint, you better watch your words. Who said that Lord Zhua is a being from the lower dimensions? I can clearly tell you that he also came from the 100 outer realms of the upper realm, and his clan is even more powerful than the Hushu clan behind me. I fought with Lord Zhua before. Do you know what the result was? What was it? Dong Huangtai asked subconsciously. He faintly felt that Zhuo Wen and Su Yuan should be at a disadvantage in their fight. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the latter to be so respectful towards Zhuo Wen. I was completely defeated. Even the Heaven Breaker divine artifact that my young master gave me was taken away by him. Tell me, can we afford to offend someone like that? Su Yuan said calmly. Thump. Dong Huangtai slumped into his seat, his face ashen. He finally knew that Zhuowen knew that the Demon Saint Temple was in danger, but he still dared to come. Not only was he confident, but he also didn't think much of him. Young Master Su Yuan, according to what you said, Zhuowen. Oh, no, Lord Zhua also has a Heaven Breaker divine artifact. Dong Huangtai asked. Of course, his Heaven Breaker divine artifact is of a higher level than mine. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to take it away so easily. Su Yuan said with a bitter smile. Dong Huangtai's entire body went limp. He finally knew what kind of person he had offended. If Zhuowen had used his Heaven Breaker divine artifact in the main hall, he would have been dead by now. Young Master Su Yuan, let's go to Lord Zhua and ask for forgiveness. Dong Huangtai stood up and followed Su Yuan out of the Demon Saint Temple. At that moment, in the Saintess Palace, Mu Qinxue was sizing up Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes were filled with displeasure as she said, Husband, are you hiding many things from me? Young Master Su Yuan is an important guest from the upper realm. He has an extraordinary background, and it's said that he has a Heaven Breaker divine artifact. Even a demon saint has to show him some respect. Why is he so quiet and respectful in front of you? Zhuowen smiled bitterly. Chen Shui, it's not that I want to hide this from you. I just didn't think of it. It's actually like this. Zhuowen told Mu Qinxue everything from the auction of the profound sky-sea settling vine to the battle with Su Yuan and how he finally subdued Su Yuan. Mu Qinxue's eyes widened when she heard this. Husband, you actually have a Heaven Breaker divine artifact. Even young Master Su Yuan's Heaven Breaker divine artifact was defeated by you? Zhuowen shrugged and said with a chuckle, Your husband, I was rather lucky. I found the coffin of a Heaven Breaker Tier Elite and obtained the majority of that Heaven Breaker Tier Elite's belongings, including a Heaven Breaker grade divine artifact. Having said that, Zhuowen took out a shining golden millstone from his great world. Chapter 3582. Chen Shui, this golden millstone is Su Yuan's heaven-breaking divine artifact. It's a first-level heaven-breaking divine artifact. I'll give this golden millstone to you. If you completely refine it, no one in this starry sky will be able to hurt you. Zhuowen handed the golden millstone to Mu Qinxue. Mu Qinxue was stunned and immediately declined. Husband, you should use this golden millstone to protect yourself. You need it more than me. Zhuowen shook his head and said, I already have a heaven-breaking divine artifact on me This is completely unnecessary. You can use it. Only if you take this can I be at ease. Mu Chinxue hesitated for a while, but still accepted the golden millstone. Although this golden millstone was damaged quite a bit by the 9 Tribulation Divine Sword, its power was still there. Perhaps it was not as good as a first level heaven breaking divine artifact, but in this starry sky, it was already atop existence. And because of the damage to this golden millstone, it was much easier to refine it. Although Mu Chinxue's cultivation was only at the 2nd decay, with Zhuowen's help, she could still refine this damaged golden millstone. While Mu Chinxue was refining the golden millstone, Zhuowen took out the little immortal monarch cauldron and continued to break the seal on it. After a while, Mu Chinxue opened her eyes and put away the golden millstone. Zhuowen noticed Mu Chinxue's strange state and said, "Chinxue, what's wrong?" "The monster saint has come to the Saint Lady Temple, and he came with Su Yuan," Mu Chinxue said with a strange look in her eyes. "Oh, Donghuang Tai is also here?" Zhuowen revealed a look of surprise. Zhuowen was not surprised that Su Yuan would come. He knew very well that Su Yuan should have gone to the Monster Saint Temple to discuss with Donghuang Tai about finding the primordial luck. Once the discussion was settled, Su Yuan would definitely come back to report to him. However, he did not expect that Donghuang Tai would also come, which made Zhuowen a little confused. "Husband, you stay in the room for now. I'll go to the hall to entertain them," Mu Chinxue said. "No need, I'll go with you. If I'm not wrong, Donghuang Tai and Su Yuan should be looking for me." Zhuowen stood up and said. Mu Chinxue nodded and did not refuse. She had learned many things from Zhuowen. She knew that with Zhuowen's strength and foundation, even if Su Yuan and Donghuang Tai joined forces, they would not be a match for him. When the two of them arrived at the hall, they found Su Yuan and Donghuang Tai sitting in their seats. 2 maids from the Saint Lady Temple were carefully serving them. When Su Yuan and Donghuang Tai saw Zhuowen come out, they stood up with a solemn expression. Su Yuan naturally bowed to Zhuowen. Donghuang Tai was a little hesitant, but in the end, he followed Su Yuan and bowed to Zhuowen. He said in a deep voice, "Taoism friend Zhua, what happened in the Monster Saint Temple just now was all my fault. I hope Taoism friend Zhua will not take it to heart." The 2 maids who were originally serving Su Yuan and Donghuang Tai were moved. They looked at Zhuowen, then looked at Su Yuan and Donghuang Tai, who were bowing, and thought that there was something wrong with their eyes. Whether it was Donghuang Tai or Su Yuan, they were the most powerful people in the Monster Saint Palace. Donghuang Tai was the supreme leader of the Monster Saint Palace and the founder of the Monster Realm. He was a real big shot. Su Yuan's origin was even more amazing. It was said that she came from the mysterious upper world, and even the Monster Saint had to respect her. In the eyes of the 2 maids, they were supreme figures. Now, they were actually bowing to this unknown guy. Were they crazy? The 2 maids were the personal maids of the Saintess. When Zhuowen came to visit the Saintess for the first time, he saw Zhuowen and knew that Zhuowen was only a guest protector of the Monster Saint Palace. When they saw the Saintess being so intimate with this person, they were dissatisfied and felt that this person was not worthy of the Saintess. But now, this insignificant guest protector in their eyes was being bowed to by Su Yuan and Donghuang Tai. Just who was this guy? Zhuowen's eyes were calm. He waved his hand at Donghuang Tai and said, "Monster Saint, you don't have to be so polite. It was just a misunderstanding. I didn't take it to heart." Donghuang Tai let out a sigh of relief in his heart and quickly said, "Fellow Zhua, refining the 1,000 Revolution Jade Essence Heavenly Pill is very taxing on one's mind. Actually, fellow Zhua doesn't need to force yourself. I don't need the divine pill to consolidate my cultivation." After knowing Zhuowen's terrifying origin, Donghuang Tai was scared. He did not dare ask for the divine pill refined by Zhuowen. No problem. I will never refuse the things I promise. Moreover, you have helped Qin Shui, so I have to repay this kindness. Zhuowen lightly said, Then I'll have to thank fellow Zhua. Dong Huang Tai quickly said with gratitude. Zhuowen looked at Su Yuan and said, Fellow Su Yuan, have you discussed this matter with the monster saint? Su Yuan awkwardly said, We didn't have time to discuss it before I told him about Sir's origin. So we came to ask for Sir's forgiveness first. No problem. Come with me to the back garden. This matter is very important, so we need to discuss it in detail. Zhuowen said without caring. In the back garden of the Saint's Palace, Zhuowen, Mu Qinxue, Dong Huang Tai, and Su Yuan sat around a stone table and began to discuss the matter of primitive fate. In the beginning, Dong Huang Tai did not know what primitive fate was. However, after Su Yuan's explanation, he revealed a moved expression, and his heart was filled with passion. According to Su Yuan, primitive fate had immeasurable benefits to one's cultivation and future potential. Even if one obtained a trace of it, one's future achievements would not be low. If one could obtain a lot of it, their future would be limitless. Moreover, there would not be many bottlenecks in their future cultivation. It was a supreme good thing. Primitive fate actually has such a wonderful effect. Dong Huang Tai's eyes sparkled as he said, Monster Saint, I know that you are someone who has existed since ancient times, so you should know many secrets. Do you know where the primitive fate is? Su Yuan quickly asked. Dong Huang Tai slightly knit his brows and thought for a while before saying, This is the first time I've heard of primitive fate, but I know the origin of this starry sky before it was formed. The origin of this starry sky is engraved in this gold leaf. If there is any place that has the magical primitive fate that you are talking about, then it is here. Dong Huang Tai said as he took out a palm-sized gold leaf. The gold leaf shone brightly and shone brightly. On the surface of the gold leaf, there were densely engraved words. These words were very strange. They were actually intertwined with each other and looked very awkward. I have studied this gold leaf for countless years. In the past, I could not understand it. Now, I have studied it thoroughly. If the words in this gold leaf are pieced together according to a pattern, it will form a very strange road map. Dong Huang Tai said in a low voice, Piece together the road map and have a look. Su Yuan said with a burning gaze. Dong Huang Tai nodded and began to piece together the gold leaf. After about half an incense stick's time, Dong Huang Tai placed the gold leaf back on the table. The densely engraved words on the surface of the gold leaf on the table were no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by a golden road map. Chapter 3583. Zhuowen was not unfamiliar with the end of the route shown in the golden leaf. Instead, he was quite familiar with it, because the end of the route in the golden bowl was actually the place where Pangu had fallen that Zhuowen had entered. He remembered that there were countless chaos beasts sealed in the place where Pangu had fallen. These chaos beasts were not kind, and there were many of them. They were the source of the catastrophe in this galaxy. The end of this route is near the western border of the galaxy. It's considered a very remote place. But is there really the source of the primeval providence there? Dong Huang Tai asked, puzzled. He had obtained this golden leaf long ago, but he had only recently unraveled the secret of the golden leaf. As for the end of the route shown in the golden leaf, he did not know much about it. Su Yuan was trembling with excitement. His mission this time was for the primeval providence. Now that he had a clue, all that was left was to find the exact location of the primeval providence. As long as he found the location of the primeval providence, he would have to inform the young master. At that time, he would have done a great deed. However, when he thought of his spirit imprint still on Zhuowen, his heart suddenly became hazy and worried. I've been there before. It's an ominous place. Countless chaos beasts are sealed there. If there really was a place of primeval providence there, I should have been able to detect it back then. Zhuowen frowned and voiced his doubts. At the same time, he looked at Dong Huangtai. Chaos beasts? Chaos beasts are actually sealed there? Su Yuan's pupils constricted, and his gaze became filled with fear. Su Yuan came from the 100 domains outside the realm, so he naturally knew what chaos beasts were. Most of these creatures did not have particularly strong cultivation, but their reproduction ability was terrifyingly strong. Once they appeared in a certain galaxy, chaos beasts would immediately reproduce rapidly. In an extremely short period of time, the number of chaos beasts would skyrocket by hundreds and thousands. Moreover, among the sea of chaos beasts, there would always be some mutation evolving into a terrifying chaos beast, and this mutated chaos beast would become the leader of the beast herd. If there were enough primal chaos beasts, even peak 5th blight cultivators who were surrounded by primal chaos beasts would die with regret. Some heaven-breaking realm cultivators who weren't that strong might even flee in a sorry state under the siege of primal chaos beasts. Su Yuan knew very well that even if he had the golden millstone, he would still be in danger if he was surrounded by chaos beasts. Now that the golden millstone had been taken away by Zhuowen, he would be seeking his own death if he entered that place. On the other hand, Dong Huangtai was confused. He knew nothing about the primordial beasts. However, when he saw the expression on Su Yuan's face, he guessed that the chaos beast was not simple. Lord Zhua, could there be a mistake? If the primordial providence was really there, the primordial providence would have been absorbed by the primordial providence long ago. How could there be a share for us? Su Yuan sighed. That's not necessarily true. We just need to go and investigate whether the primordial providence is there or not. Zhuowen said. Although Zhuowen had entered the place where Pangu had fallen, he hadn't stayed there for long. Moreover, after receiving Pangu's inheritance, he had left and hadn't carefully investigated that place. Now that he thought about it carefully, that place was filled with mountains and covered an extremely large area. Moreover, it was located in a remote area, and ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect it at all. Perhaps it really was the place where the primordial providence was. At the same time, Zhuowen glanced at the golden leaf in the demon saint's hand. He felt that the primordial providence was definitely in a very secret place, and this golden leaf should be something like a key to open that secret place. Dong Huangtai felt Zhuowen's gaze and hurriedly handed the golden leaf to him. He revealed a fawning smile and said, "Fellow Taoist Zhuowen, I'll leave this golden leaf with you for now. As for when to search for the primordial providence, I'll listen to you, fellow Taoist Zhua." Dong Huangtai was very smart. He could tell from Su Yuan's expression that the so-called beast of chaos must be a very dangerous creature. Even Su Yuan was extremely afraid of it, so he certainly couldn't search for the primordial providence alone. Zhuowen was very mysterious, and his strength was much stronger than Su Yuan's. Dong Huangtai made up his mind to follow Zhuowen and search for the primordial providence. Zhuowen accepted the gold foil and said with a nod, "Then I'll have to thank Demon Saint very much. The place where the primordial providence is located is very dangerous. If we want to go there, we must make a foolproof plan. How about this? I still have some personal matters to deal with in the heaven accessing place. When I'm done, I'll return to the demon area. At that time, let's search for the primordial providence together." Zhuowen knew that the search for the primordial providence would be extremely dangerous, and it was hard to guarantee that there would be other accidents. Therefore, Zhuowen planned to completely resolve the previous grievances before this. Back then, the Wu Tower in the heaven accessing place chased after him, and he was very embarrassed. If he hadn't been smart enough, he would have been killed in the heaven accessing place. Now, his cultivation had greatly improved, and he could already use part of the power of the 9 Tribulations celestial sword. Moreover, he had the ultimate Yin fire and the sword essence of the divine soul. He knew that even if Wu Taiji came in person, he wouldn't be afraid. In addition, his Panga's sacred body had reached perfection, and he still needed 2 more venomous insects, namely the Ozi insect and the Emperor River insect. Zhuowen knew where the Ozi insect was. It was in the Nightmare Nunnery in the Nightmare Abyss in the Heaven Accessing Place. He planned to get the Ozi insect and merge it with his Panga's sacred body. Then he would go to the Wu Tower to settle accounts. Dong Huangtai and Su Yuan looked at each other and nodded, saying that they weren't in a hurry. They chatted for a while, and then they said goodbye and left. In the next few days, Zhuowen secluded himself to refine the 1,000 turns jade essence pill. Dong Huangtai had sent the materials for the 1,000 turns jade essence pill early in the morning. 3 days later, a terrifying beam of light shot up from the Saintess Hall. The beam of light pierced the sky, and an intoxicating elixir aroma quickly filled the air. It smells so good. This is the elixir aroma. I feel like I'm in heaven. It's so comfortable. In the Saintess Hall, many maids were intoxicated by the elixir aroma. Dong Huangtai and Su Yuan were also alarmed. Soon, they knew what was going on. Zhuowen's 1,000 turns jade essence pill had been successfully refined. Dong Huangtai was overjoyed. He knew that as long as he had the 1,000 turns jade essence pill, his 5th decay realm would soon be stabilized. The beam of light soon disappeared. In the Saintess Hall, Zhuowen slowly walked out of seclusion. He handed a jade bottle to Mu Qinxue and said, "Qinxue, give this jade bottle to Dong Huangtai. There are several 1,000 turns jade essence pills in it. Husband, aren't you going to meet Dong Huangtai and the others?" Mu Qinxue asked in surprise. "No need. I plan to go to the Heaven Accessing Place now. You can wait for me in the Demon Saint Palace." Zhuowen stroked Mu Qinxue's hair and said softly, Chapter 3584. After the space-time, Roulette flew out of the Demon Divine Heavenly City. Zhuowen handed over control of the Roulette to Xiao He. He then entered the temporary cave residence in the space-time Roulette and cultivated in seclusion again. This time, the original body took out the chaotic gem and absorbed the chaotic energy in it. His aura was also growing stronger under the effect of the chaotic energy. At the same time, Zhuowen also diverted some of his attention to let his doppelganger continue to crack the obscure restriction in the little immortal tripod. Zhuowen was not in a hurry, so it took him more than a month to reach the Xianmi heavenly territory from the demon realm, and nearly a month to go from the Xianmi heavenly territory to the star battlefield. When the space-time roulette entered the space of the star battlefield, the chaotic gem in Zhuowen's original body's hand had completely turned into powder. The energy in the chaotic gem had been completely absorbed by Zhuowen. The original body's cultivation had also broken through from the early 3rd decay to the late 3rd decay. It had to be said that the chaotic energy contained in the chaotic gem was too strong. It was because of the chaotic gem that Zhuowen's cultivation speed had become so terrifying. When Zhuowen's cultivation had broken through to the late 3rd decay, he slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was filled with excitement. This was because in his perception, the doppelganger had completely cracked all the restriction in the little immortal tripod. Thinking of this, the original body entered the macro world. On the island in the center of the lake, in the macro world, the doppelganger was holding the little immortal tripod. At this moment, the little immortal tripod still looked shabby, and its surface was covered with the traces of time. However, the moment Zhuowen's divine thought fell on the little immortal tripod, he discovered that the aura inside the little immortal tripod had undergone a rebirth. This was because his divine thought had discovered a small space in the depths of the little immortal tripod. Boy, we are about to reach the entrance of the heaven accessing place. At this moment, Xiao Hei's voice sounded. Zhuowen pondered for a moment and said in a deep voice, Xiao Hei, find a remote place nearby. I need to cultivate in seclusion for a few days. After I come out of seclusion, I will enter the heaven accessing place. Xiao Hei agreed. Then she changed her course and flew in the other direction of the heaven accessing place. After Zhuowen finished instructing Xiao Hei, his divine sense slowly entered the small space deep within the little immortal Lord Cauldron. He always felt that this small space was not simple. For safety's sake, he naturally needed to find a quiet place for closed-door practice and explore the secrets of the young immortal king tripod before entering the heaven accessing place. When Zhuowen's spiritual consciousness entered the depths of the young immortal Lord Cauldron, Zhuowen froze. His spiritual consciousness was instantly grabbed by an even more terrifying spiritual consciousness and pulled into the depths of the young immortal Lord Cauldron. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes and discovered that he was in a strange space filled with a vast expanse of white. In this space, many scenes appeared. The main character of these scenes was the rise of a young man. These are the things that the alchemy array immortal master did when he was young. Are these his memories? Zhuowen looked at the scenes in front of him. He saw the alchemy array immortal master evolve from an ordinary person to the famous alchemy array immortal master. While looking at these memories, he was also carefully studying the alchemy array immortal master's alchemy array techniques. It could be said that most of the alchemy array techniques were created by the alchemy array immortal master himself. The former was definitely a genius. Zhuowen could not help but feel a sense of respect for him. After looking through the memories of the alchemy array immortal monarch, Zhuowen realized that the alchemy array immortal monarch had relied on his own hard work and talent to cultivate the alchemy array immortal monarch to the peak. Even the alchemy array immortal master had not received any inheritance. Everything was created by himself. As he looked at these memories, Zhuowen's eyes gradually revealed a look of enlightenment. He unconsciously began to imitate the alchemy array immortal master's alchemy array techniques. He found that the speed of setting up arrays and refining pills had increased by a large margin. As Zhuowen continued to use the alchemy array immortal master's alchemy array techniques, the look of enlightenment in Zhuowen's eyes became more and more intense. He had obtained the complete true alchemy array record. Part of the alchemy arrays was passed down from the alchemy array immortal master. However, the true alchemy array record was very profound. Even Zhuowen had not completely comprehended it. But now, in this space of memories, Zhuowen gradually began to understand the parts of the true alchemy array record that he did not understand. At this moment, Zhuowen could be said to have achieved a great enlightenment. The moment Zhuowen opened his eyes, he took out beastbone array discs and skillfully set up an array. Terrifying ripples of formation, Tao suddenly burst open, forming a terrifying power that had never been seen before. For 3 days and 3 nights, Zhuowen tirelessly set up a great array in this strange space. Finally, when he placed the last formation plate, the great formation was completed. A terrifying power that could shake the heavens and the earth swept over. This power was too terrifying. It was as if it could destroy everything. Then the space where Zhuowen was completely torn apart and began to collapse. Zhuowen quietly looked at the torn space. At this moment, his spirit had undergone a thorough transformation. His gaze was very calm. He knew that his spirit had been elevated at this moment. At this moment, his array Tao level had also achieved an unprecedented breakthrough. He understood that his spirit had successfully broken through and ascended to the Heaven Breaker realm. under the powerful spirit, his alchemy Tao and array Tao had also completely broken through and reached the Heaven Breaker realm. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. He was still in the temporary cave abode. The immortal monarch cauldron in front of him had been shattered, and the fragments of the immortal monarch cauldron had automatically assembled, forming bronze array flags that floated around Zhuowen. Zhuowen respectfully bowed deeply to the bronze array flags and said, "Thank you for your help, Senior." He now understood that the immortal monarch cauldron contained a trace of the divine sense of the immortal monarch cauldron. This divine sense had helped him comprehend the ultimate Tao of alchemy arrays after he entered the space, and Zhuowen had also successfully broken through. Of course, the main reason was that his spirit had been elevated. His comprehension of alchemy formations had only reached the heaven-shattering tier. If he wanted to completely evolve, then he would have to set up a heaven-shattering tier formation and a heaven-shattering tier divine pill in reality. However, Zhuowen knew that he could only be considered a true heaven breaker divine array master and alchemy master after he had completely set up the array and refined the divine pill. Of course, now that his spirit had been completely elevated to the heaven breaker level, it was not difficult to refine the heaven breaker divine pill and set up a heaven breaker array. However, Zhuowen was not in a hurry to do it. He knew that with his current array Tao level, it was enough for him to use in this starry sky. Moreover, setting up a heaven breaker array would more or less cause some damage to this starry sky. When he had used the heaven breaker divine artifact, he had already noticed it. Therefore, he planned to set up a complete heaven breaker array through the chaotic starry sky in the heaven-accessing secret land, so that he could officially become a heaven breaker divine array master. Chapter 3585. When Zhuowen arrived at the entrance of the heaven-accessing secret land, he found that the entrance was still heavily guarded. There were 7 or 8 experts from the alien tribe guarding the entrance. However, there was only one guard from the human tribe. Zhuowen knew at a glance that the alien tribe had not given up on him. "Who are you?" Zhuowen's appearance immediately attracted the attention of the guards at the entrance. However, when they saw Zhuowen, they were all stunned. Zhuowen did not deliberately change his appearance. Instead, he used his original appearance. Since Zhuowen had made such a big noise in the heaven-accessing secret land, he had become completely famous. Regardless of whether it was the Three Purities Street or the Chaotic Street, most of the practitioners basically knew his specific appearance and how he looked after changing his appearance. Now that Zhuowen had entered the entrance of the heaven-accessing secret land with his original appearance, the guards naturally recognized Zhuowen at a glance. "Zhuowen from the human tribe? You've got guts. How dare you come back after you ran away?" One of the alien tribe guards sneered. He took out a jade talisman and informed the Wulu. Then, he quickly fled toward the entrance of the chaotic street. Zhuowen had even killed an expert in the third blight. He was only in the first blight, so he was nothing in front of Zhuowen. Moreover, he had already sent out the message. This was already a great achievement. He could go to the Wulu to receive his reward. The moment this alien tribe guard took the lead to escape, the rest of the alien tribe members also came to their senses. They also scrambled to escape. They did not have the courage to face Zhuowen at all. Zhuowen was stunned. He had thought that these alien tribe members would directly rush up to capture him. He did not expect that they would run faster than anyone else. However, Zhuowen quickly came to his senses. He waved his sleeve, and a terrifying broken divine power spread out like ripples. All of the foreign beings who were struck by the shattered divine power let loose howls of anguish as they were crushed into clouds of blood mist dead beyond compare. The foreign race member, who was the first to escape, was the strongest among them. Just as he was about to reach the entrance of the desolate street, He was struck by the ripples of the shattered divine power. He screamed in agony and was unable to escape the fate of death. The only human guard at the entrance froze on the spot. He was completely shocked by the fact that Zhuowen had wiped out all the non-humankind guards with a wave of his hand, and he still hadn't recovered from the shock. Zhuowen smiled at the human guard and slowly walked toward the entrance of Three Purities Street. It wasn't until Zhuowen completely entered Three Clear Street that the human guard reacted. His face turned red, and he muttered to himself in excitement. Zhuowen, it really is the Zhuowen who killed 5 Third Blight cultivators. He actually came back. Zhuowen had caused too much of a commotion in the heaven accessing place. At that time, Zhuowen had arrived at the periphery of the Nightmare Abyss and was besieged by 7 Third Blight cultivators from the Witch Clan, the Corpse Clan, the Space-Time Beast Clan, the Dragon Clan, the Black Tiger Clan, the Phoenix People, and the Mermaid Clan. Zhuowen had killed 5 experts in a row, while Long Haoge of the Dragon Clan and Hu Guanyu of the Black Tiger Clan had fled in fear. Such a terrifying record had shocked the entire heaven accessing place. Whether it was the human clan or the foreign clan, everyone was alarmed, and the news spread like wildfire. Naturally, the non-humankind hated Zhuowen to the core, but countless human cultivators were secretly admiring Zhuowen, and many of them worshipped Zhuowen with great fanaticism. This human guard was one of Zhuowen's admirers. Now that he had finally seen the expert he admired, it was imaginable how excited he was at this moment. I have to report this to Lord Three Pure Ones of the Palace of Three Pure Ones. Master Zhuo has offended many experts from different clans on the Chaotic Street. At this moment, the Chaotic Street must know. Only Lord Three Pure Ones can protect Master Zhuo now. The human guard soon showed a worried look. He took out a jade charm and sent a message to the Taoist child of the Palace of Three Pure Ones, informing him that Zhuowen had returned to the heaven accessing place. After sending the message, the human guard hurried into the street of Three Pure Ones. Within the Shaman Tower on Desolation Street, Wu Taiji, who was originally in closed-door cultivation, slowly opened his eyes. He glanced at the jade talisman that was constantly flickering at his waist and muttered to himself with slight displeasure, "It actually sent a message when I was in closed-door cultivation. Could it be that there's something urgent?" Wu Taiji took down the jade charm and scanned it with his divine thought. His body immediately froze, and he stood up abruptly. A terrifying qi power surged out like a tide. "Zhuowen, you actually dared to come back. Do you really think that the heaven accessing place is a place where you can come and go as you please?" Wu Taiji's eyes narrowed into slits, and his killing intent surged. At the same time, he was quite happy. He knew that Zhuowen was like a sheep in a tiger's mouth. If he could capture or kill this man, it would be a great achievement. Wu Taiji left the seclusion and took out the jade charm to inform the second tower master of the Wizard Tower, Wu Yangshua, and his exclusive servant, Wu Xiangjuan. In the spacious study, Wu Yangshua and Wu Xiangjuan hurried over. Wu Taiji was already sitting in the study. "Tower Master, you've come out of seclusion? You must have already known about Zhuowen, right?" Wu Xiangjuan looked at Wu Taiji and asked in a low voice. Wu Yangshua stood aside with a trace of excitement and brutality in his eyes. He said eagerly, "Tower Master, if the Black King hadn't stopped me, Zhuowen would have been killed by me. Since this man doesn't know what's good for him and has come back again, I'll go and capture that bastard." Wu Yangshua was very confident. When Zhuowen saw him, he hurriedly ran away. He knew that Zhuowen was no match for him. If the Black King of Sanqing Street hadn't stopped him, Zhuowen wouldn't be alive now. Wu Xiangjuan shook her head and said, "Second Tower Master, even if you go, I'm afraid you can't capture Zhuowen. If I'm right, the Three Pure Ones and the Black King will definitely interfere. If Zhuowen hides in Sanqing Street, we won't have a chance to enter Sanqing Street to capture him. Wu Taiji nodded and said, Xiangjuan is right. Zhuowen is not a fool. Since he has returned to the heaven accessing place, he must be planning to hide in Sanqing Street and seek protection from the three pure ones. Yang Shuo, even if you go in person, I'm afraid it's impossible. The three pure ones won't let you take Zhuowen away. Wu Yangshuo frowned and said unwillingly, Then what should we do? If Zhuowen hides in Sanqing Street for the rest of his life, we won't be able to do anything to him, right? Wu Taiji smiled faintly and said, There is a way. Didn't I tell you before? Lord Bing, Hui has come out of seclusion. It's said that he was given a treasure to suppress his cultivation by an almighty. He will come to our starry sky again soon. As long as Lord Bing Hui comes, the three pure ones won't have the guts to protect Zhuowen even if they want to. Besides, the old guy is only pretending to be obedient. The first thing Lord Bing Hui will do when he comes to the mortal world is to get rid of Zhuowen. The second thing is to deal with the old guy. At that time, the three pure ones will probably be in a bad situation. That will be the opportunity for our desolate street. Wu Yangshuo and Wu Xiangjuan looked at each other, their faces filled with joy. Although they knew that Bing Hui would come again, they didn't know when. The only one who could contact Bing Hui was Wu Taiji. Since Wu Taiji said so, it meant that Bing Hui would come to the mortal world soon. Chapter 3586. House Lord, are we just going to watch and wait for Lord Bing Hui to come down? Wu Yangshuo's eyes flashed. Wu Taiji said in a deep voice, Of course not. Yangshuo, go and contact the ancestors of the corpse race, space-time beast race, dragon race, black tiger race, phoenix people, and merman race. Tell them that Zhuowen has returned to the heaven-accessing realm. Go to Sanqing Street with them and put pressure on them. At the same time, send people to guard the entrance and exit of Sanqing Street. Keep a close eye on them. Wu Yangshuo nodded and left the study. Clearly, he went to inform the ancestors of the corpse race, space-time beast race, dragon race, black tiger race, phoenix people, and merman race. These 6 races and the shaman race had suffered heavy losses at the hands of Zhuowen. 5 of the third blight experts they had sent had died at the hands of Zhuowen. They had a deep grudge against Zhuowen. In addition, Wu Taiji had promised to share the heaven-breaking cultivation technique with them in the future. Therefore, these 6 races were firmly tied to the shaman race. Taiji, that Zhuowen isn't a fool. He clearly escaped. So why did he dare to come back? Does he have something to rely on? You have to be careful about this. Wu Xiangjuan frowned. She felt that Zhuowen wasn't ordinary. If an ordinary person escaped, they would run as far away as possible. However, this Zhuowen did the exact opposite. Not long after escaping, he actually returned. As long as it was someone with a normal brain, they would not do such a thing. Wu Taiji waved his hand. I don't care what that Zhuowen is up to. As long as he falls into my hands, his ending will be very miserable. Wu Xiangjuan sighed. She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure it out. At the end of Sanqing Street stood a mountain range. It was Sanqing Mountain. Sanqing Palace stood at the top of Sanqing Mountain. At this moment, the Taoist child in front of Sanqing Palace hurried back to Taoist 3 Purities, who was sitting on a cushion. Little Taoist child, didn't I tell you to sweep the gate? Why did you come back? Are you trying to slack off? Lian Meng, who was standing in the courtyard of Sanqing Palace, saw the little Taoist child running in a hurry and shouted. The little Taoist child quickly stopped and said anxiously, Senior Sister Lian Meng, something bad happened. That little brother Zhuowen has returned to the heaven-accessing place. What? What did you just say? Zhuowen to the heaven accessing, to the heaven reaching? Lian Meng's delicate body trembled as her beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. To Meng, to the gate, to the gate, to the gate, to the heavens to kill, to the gate, to the gate. Little brother Zhuowen. And to say, Zhuowen to the gate, to the gate, to the gate, gate, to the gate, to the two, to the gate, gate. To this, to the said, to the two, child said child. To the him, to the palace, to the two. In the great hall of the Three Purities Palace, there was a statue of the Three Purities. At this moment, the Three Purities were sitting cross-legged in front of it. When Meng and the little Taoist child entered the palace, Sanqing slowly opened his eyes and said indifferently, "What's the matter?" Lian Meng said respectfully, "Master, Zhuowen, he has returned to the heaven accessing to the two." Sanqing nodded and said, "I've heard about it." With that, Three Pure Ones slowly stood up and walked out of the hall. He continued, "Let's go. Follow me to find Zhuowen." "Master, Zhuowen has just returned to the heaven accessing to the two. Won't he come to find you? Do you want us to find him?" Lian Meng said with a complicated look in her beautiful eyes. Sanqing shook his head and said with a smile, "He doesn't recognize me as his master anymore. Moreover, I think he came to the heaven accessing place mainly for the Ozi parasite in the nightmare abyss. If I'm not wrong, he will go to the nightmare abyss directly instead of coming to Sanqing Palace to see me." Lian Meng was silent. She sighed in her heart and followed Sanqing out of Sanqing Palace. After Zhuowen entered Sanqing Street, he went straight to the end of the street. He did not plan to stay in Sanqing Street. As Sanqing had guessed, he planned to go to the nightmare abyss directly, after he found the Ozi parasite, and upgraded his Pangu sacred body to another level. He would rush into the chaotic street and settle accounts with the Wu Lu. When Zhuowen came to the end of Sanqing Street, he immediately heard someone exclaim, "Zhuowen! Are you Zhuowen?" Zhuowen turned around and saw a white-haired young man with a divine sword on his back standing behind him with bright eyes. At the same time, beside the white-haired young man stood an extremely burly man with a shining broadsword at his waist. Zhuowen was stunned. He was familiar with these two people. They were the white-robed sword devil, Jiang Ruisi, and the saber tyrant, Du Huacan. They were the top 20 experts in Sanqing Street and had been famous for a long time. He had fought with them before. However, Zhuowen only glanced at the two of them. His gaze was more focused on the man in black standing in front of Jiang Ruisi and Du Huacan. This man had a blue and red divine saber on his waist. This person's aura was restrained, but Zhuowen could still feel a strong sense of oppression faintly coming from this person. The early stage of the third blight, Zhuowen sized up the black-clothed man in front of him. With his powerful divine sense, he could easily detect the black-clothed man's cultivation. However, Zhuowen knew that the man's strength was far more than that. The aura he emitted was enough to prove that the man's strength was far more powerful than his cultivation. "Hey, I say, bro, why are you back? Last time you made such a big noise that the whole heaven accessing place was alarmed. You're completely famous now. And since you're so famous, why don't you change your appearance after returning to the heaven accessing place? Is it really okay to walk on the street like this?" The saber tyrant, Du Huacan, quickly stepped forward and smiled. The white-robed sword devil was not to be outdone. He also stepped forward and chatted with Zhuowen. Both of them had seen Zhuowen's strength with their own eyes and were convinced by Zhuowen's strength. They had long wanted to make friends with him. However, after Zhuowen made a big noise, he didn't stay in Sanqing Street for long before leaving. They had no chance to make friends with Zhuowen. Now that they met Zhuowen, they would never let go of this opportunity to make friends with him. Zhuowen looked at Jiang Ruisi and Du Huacan speechlessly. Weren't these two people always at odds with each other? Why were they getting along so well now and showing such tacit understanding? You're Zhuowen, the one who fought against 7 experts of the third blight of the alien race alone? The black-robed man, who had been silent, finally couldn't help but ask. During this time, Zhuowen's reputation was too great. Everywhere he went, there were various versions of legends about Zhuowen. He had been in seclusion before and had just come out. Moreover, his reputation in Sanqing Street was far higher than Jiang Ruisi and Du Huacan's. He was proud and arrogant. Chapter 3587. Taoism Fellow, Zhuo. This is Xiao Huanyu, nicknamed the Ice and Fire Saber God. He has both ice and fire attributes and is a top genius in Sanqing Street. His strength can be ranked in the top 5 in Sanqing Street. Saber tyrant Du Huacan whispered in Zhuowen's ear. Judging from his appearance, he was obviously afraid of Xiao Huanyu. Xiao Huanyu naturally heard Saber Tyrant's voice. He raised his chin slightly and revealed a proud look. During this period of time, Zhuowen's fame in the heaven-accessing place was so great that it spread like wildfire. In his opinion, these rumors were somewhat untrue. Now that he saw that Zhuowen was not very old, he subconsciously thought that Zhuowen could not be that strong. Zhuowen, just as Du Huacan said, "My name is Xiao Huanyu. I have been in seclusion and have just come out. Recently, there have been rumors about you. I don't know if you have time to exchange pointers with me and learn from each other." Xiao Huanyu's eyes were blazing. He stared at Zhuowen, and a fighting spirit rose in his heart. He had just broken through the early stage of the third blight and was in high spirits. At this moment, he wanted to find an expert with a good reputation to fight and make his name known. If it were in the past, Xiao Huanyu would naturally find an expert ranked 4th in Sanqing Street to fight. But now he happened to meet Zhuowen, who was extremely famous during this period of time. He naturally regarded Zhuowen as a stepping stone that could make him famous. Zhuowen said impatiently, "I'm in a hurry. Don't block my way." Jie? Xiao Huanyu's bellyful of fighting spirit was immediately extinguished by Zhuowen's impatient words. He was the expert ranked 5th in Sanqing Street and had been famous for a long time. Everyone in the heaven-accessing place knew about him. In his opinion, he had taken the initiative to challenge Zhuowen, which was giving Zhuowen a lot of face. But what was with this guy's attitude? He was so impatient, as if he was driving away a lackey. Xiao Huanyu's face was red and gloomy. He said coldly, "You really don't know what's good for you. In that case, I won't talk nonsense with you. Today, I just wanted to exchange pointers with you, but you don't know what's good for you. I won't hold back. If you are accidentally destroyed by me, don't blame me. I didn't give you a chance." As he spoke, Xiao Huanyu's hands suddenly pulled out 2 red and blue sabers from his waist. The blue ice energy and the crimson fire energy intertwined, forming a terrifying barrier of ice and fire around them. At the same time, an earth-shattering pressure erupted from Xiao Huanyu's body. The space within the fire and ice barrier began to violently explode as it began to collapse inch by inch. Blade tyrant Du Huacan and white-robed sword demon Jiang Ruisi were very unfortunate. They were unable to dodge in time and were trapped inside the ice and fire barrier. They were struggling to resist the terrifying pressure released by Xiao Huanyu. It. How could he attack without any warning? I wasn't prepared at all. The ice and fire barrier was Xiao Huanyu's final trump card. He actually used this move as soon as he attacked. Du Huanyu and Jiang Rui cursed in their hearts. This Xiao Huanyu was too unreasonable. Didn't he see that they were not far from Zhuowen? He used such a large-scale move as soon as he attacked. Wasn't he going to let them off? Moreover, the two of them were secretly shocked. After Xiao Huanyu came out of seclusion, he had really broken through to the third blight. His strength had reached such a terrifying level. Inside this ice and fire enchantment, Xiao Huanyu only needed a thought to kill the two of them. Moreover, Xiao Huanyu himself was a peerless genius. His cultivation had just broken through to the early stage of the third blight, but his strength was comparable to a mid-stage third blight, or even a late-stage third blight expert. How could they fight such an opponent? Even if the two of them were very optimistic about Zhuowen at the beginning, their hearts were beating like drums. They felt that Zhuowen was still lacking compared to Xiao Huanyu. Zhuowen stopped at the edge of the ice and fire boundary and slowly turned around. The calmness in his eyes had long been replaced by indifference. He looked at Xiao Huanyu and said word by word, "Are you deaf? I'm in a hurry right now and don't have time to play around with you. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and remove this boundary." Xiao Huanyu was amused. This ice and fire barrier was his strongest trump card. With his current cultivation, even a peak third blight powerhouse would find it difficult to escape from the ice and fire barrier. But this Zhuowen actually said that he was playing around. Did he really think that he was an expert on the same level as Taoist three purities? It seems that you don't understand the situation at all. Since that's the case, let me teach you a good lesson. After saying this, Xiao Huanyu rushed forward. The ice and fire divine blades in his hands sent out terrifying red and blue blade lights that swept towards Zhuowen like a storm. It's over. This Zhuowen is done for. Du Huacan and Jiang Ruisi looked at each other and bitterly smiled. The two of them were suppressed by the ice and fire boundary and couldn't move. They could only barely resist the terrifying attacks of the ice and fire boundary. Boom! Zhuowen's expression was indifferent. With a wave of his sleeve, the dense red and blue blade lights were all torn apart. Then, Zhuowen grabbed with his right hand. The surging broken divine power fell on Xiao Huanyu like an invisible hand. In the end, Xiao Huanyu, who was originally full of momentum, was caught in Zhuowen's hand like a chicken. What? Xiao Huanyu's expression changed greatly. He gathered all the strength in his body and tried to break free from the invisible hand, but it was in vain. Zhuowen pulled Xiao Huanyu in front of him and mercilessly slapped him. Xiao Huanyu spun more than 10 times in the air and fell heavily to the ground. Ga. Du Huacan and Jiang Ruisi, who couldn't bear to watch, were petrified when they saw this scene. What was going on? Xiao Huanyu had just broken through. Although he was only at the early third blight, his strength was comparable to the late third blight. With such strength, he could be ranked among the top experts in the heaven-accessing secret realm. But now, in the hands of Zhuowen, Xiao Huanyu was knocked to the ground with just a grab and a slap. He couldn't get up like a dead dog. Zhuowen didn't even look at Xiao Huanyu, who was knocked unconscious by him. His right hand formed a fist and punched the ice and fire boundary. Ka ka ka. The ice and fire boundary was torn to pieces like paper. Du Huacan and Jiang Ruisi's mouths were wide open. They didn't expect Zhuowen's strength to be so strong. In any case, Xiao Huanyu was ranked 5th in the 3 Purity Street, but he was actually knocked unconscious by a single slap. What made the two of them even more speechless was that Zhuowen's face showed a disgusted and impatient expression. It was as if he didn't feel any sense of accomplishment after defeating Xiao Huanyu. At this moment, Zhuowen didn't feel any sense of accomplishment in his heart. He just felt depressed and angry. Even Dong Huang Tai, an early 5th blight expert, was in awe of Zhuowen. Xiao Huanyu, who was only at the early 3rd blight, dared to provoke him. Chapter 3588. Of course, it was not Xiao Huanyu's fault. Zhuowen had made great progress since he left the heaven accessing place. Not to mention the 9 tribulations sacred sword, the sword essence of spirit, and the ultimate Hanin fire. His cultivation had reached the late stage of the 3rd decay. If Xiao Huanyu had come to him before he left the heaven accessing place, Zhuowen would have had to go through a lot of trouble to defeat him. But now, Xiao Huanyu was courting death. After breaking the boundary of ice and fire, Zhuowen went straight to the exit of the heaven accessing place. When he passed through the exit and entered the chaotic starry sky, his divine thoughts immediately perceived 7 horrible chi power approaching him quickly. It's Zhuowen. I thought you would hide in the 3 Purities Street and need me to negotiate with the 3 Purities. They might hand you over. What I didn't expect was that a little bastard like you would have the guts to leave Sanqing Street. It seems that you have a death wish. A thunderous voice came first and resounded around the exit of the heaven accessing place. Then, a flowing light came quickly and appeared not far from Zhuowen. And this figure did not stop in front of Zhuowen, but behind Zhuowen, which was close to the exit of the heaven accessing place. Once Zhuowen wanted to return to the 3 Purities Street, this person could immediately stop Zhuowen. In this way, Zhuowen's only way out was completely blocked. Zhuowen looked at this person and found that it was an extremely burly middle-aged man. However, this person's skin color was different from that of ordinary people, and his height was also much higher than that of the human clan. Wu Yangshuo of the Wulu? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and recognized the person in front of him. It was Wu Yangshuo, the 2nd Tower Master of the Wulu. When Zhuowen had just left the heaven accessing place, Wu Yangshuo had chased after him. Fortunately, he was stopped by the Black King. Of course, Zhuowen did not know about this. Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time that Zhuowen called out Wu Yangshuo's name, another 6 streaks of light flew over from afar, surrounding Zhuowen in a fan-shaped formation. These 6 figures were all foreign races, and their auras were extremely vast and terrifying. They were all 4th Blight experts. Amongst them, there were 4 that were at the initial stage of the 4th decay, and 2 that were at the intermediate stage of the 4th decay. Along with Wu Yangshuo, who was at the peak of the 4th decay, this formation was simply unprecedented. At this moment, Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi had just come out of the entrance of the heaven accessing place. They had originally chased after Zhuowen and wanted to ask him about his cultivation. When the 2 of them came out and saw Zhuowen surrounded by 7 people, they were stunned. When they saw the 7 people clearly, they began to wonder if they were hallucinating. The 2nd Tower Master of the Wu Tower, Wu Yangshuo, and the 6 ancestors of the Corpse Ghost Clan, the Space-Time Beast Clan, the Dragon Clan, the Black Tiger Clan, the Phoenix People, and the Mermaid Clan have all come out. Are they all here to kill Zhuowen? Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi were both trembling, and their teeth were chattering. Whether it was Wu Yangshuo or the ancestors of the other 6 clans, they were all at the 4th decay and above. They could kill the 2 of them with just a flick of their fingers. It was simply easier than killing chickens. These 7 experts were already at the peak of the heaven accessing place. Their status was unshakable, and they enjoyed a supreme status that was respected by thousands of people. They would not easily make a move. But now, these 7 experts had all made a move, and their goal was very clear. They were here for Zhuowen. Brother Jiang, it's over. Zhuowen is completely finished. No matter how powerful he is, under the encirclement of these 7 old ancestor-level experts, he will be completely annihilated. Du Huaqian trembled as he spoke. Jiang Ruisi's legs were weak, and his face was completely pale. He nodded reluctantly and said, "Brother Du, you are right. But what should we do? Zhuowen is dead. I'm afraid, Wu Yangshuo, and the others will not let us go. Du Huacan smiled bitterly. Jiang Ruisi was right. They had witnessed Zhuowen's death and knew the truth. How could they survive? Now, the two of them had been locked by Wu Yangshuo's aura. Their strength was also sealed by this aura. It was difficult to even move, let alone return to the heaven accessing place. It was simply a luxury. We are also finished. We can't escape. Du walk inside softly. At this moment, Zhuowen stood in the middle of the seven ancestors. His eyes were terrifyingly calm. Wu Yangshuo and the others had come in person, which was more or less beyond Zhuowen's expectations. You are that, Zhuowen? You are really something. You dared to kill Shijin of my corpse ghost clan. The ancestor of the corpse ghost clan looked at Zhuowen gloomily. Ha ha. Back then, it wasn't only your corpse ghost clan that died in his hands. How many of our Phoenix people have died in his hands? He even destroyed our Phoenix people's base in the untainted heavenly realm. He is simply lawless. The ancestor of the Phoenix people said with monstrous hatred. Many members of the Mermaid clan have also died in his hands, apart from Wu Yangshuo. The other 6 ancestors spoke one after another, listing the so-called crimes Zhuowen had committed in the past. They were not in a hurry to take down Zhuowen. In their eyes, Zhuowen was no different from a dead man at this moment. The 7 ancestor-level experts were too terrifying. Even a 5th blight cultivator would be injured if they were besieged like this, let alone Zhuowen, whose cultivation was not very strong. All right, stop arguing. This Zhuowen is dead, for sure. However, we have already agreed that whether we capture him alive or dead, he will belong to our Wu Lu. This is the person that Lord Bing, who he wants to kill. Wu Yangshuo finally spoke. The 6 patriarchs, who were originally arguing, fell silent. When they heard about Bing Hui, their eyes were filled with fear. Bing Hui's origin was too great. He was not a character of this starry sky, but a terrifying existence that transcended beyond this starry sky. This person had descended into their starry sky and was invincible. No one would be his match. You all are talking like a pack of wild dogs barking. Do you really think you can kill me? Zhuowen finally spoke. His voice was calm, but there was an inexplicable chill in it. Ha! It's not that we can kill you. It's that you are dead for sure. When we came here, your fate was already sealed. The ancestor of the corpse ghost clan laughed sinisterly. It was as unpleasant and ear-piercing as an owl's, but his laughter soon turned into a scream. Zhuowen revealed a smile at the corner of his mouth. With a flick of his finger, a white flame emerged from the golden ring on his finger. It suddenly rushed out and instantly enveloped the ancestor of the corpse ghost clan. This flame was too strange. It was clearly burning vigorously, but it gave people the feeling that they had fallen into an ice cellar. The ancestor of the corpse ghost clan screamed too miserably, and the white flame on his body became more and more vigorous. In just 3 breaths of time, the ancestor of the corpse ghost clan became a pile of black dregs. Chapter 3589. This is the ultimate Hanin flame. Wu Yangshuo was the first to react. His eyes were wide open as he stared at the white flame in front of him. His face was filled with disbelief. The ultimate Hanin flame was the most terrifying energy that a cultivator would encounter when they were going through the 5th blight. It was extremely powerful and couldn't be underestimated. The moment Wu Yangshuo said this, the 5 ancestors of the space-time beast race, dragon race, black tiger race, phoenix people, and merman race all sucked in a breath of cold air. They were all 4th blight cultivators and had a much deeper understanding of the ultimate Hanin flame than other cultivators. They knew how terrifying and powerful the ultimate Hanin flame was. They also knew that it would be difficult for them to resist the ultimate Hanin flame. However, this Zhuowen was too heaven-defying. How could he have such a terrifying flame on his body? Moreover, it seemed like he could control the ultimate Hanin flame. This was simply unbelievable. Jiang Ruisi and Du Huaqin were completely dumbfounded. They were unfamiliar with the white flame that Zhuowen released, but when Wuyang Shua said that it was the ultimate Hanin flame, their bodies trembled. They had also heard of the ultimate Hanin flame and knew that it was the energy of the fifth blight tribulation. Since ancient times, there had been many experts who had passed through the fifth blight, but they had all fallen to the ultimate Hanin flame and were unable to take the final step. Logically speaking, even a fifth blight cultivator would find it difficult to collect such terrifying energy. After all, they were already exhausted when they were going through the tribulation. How could they have the mood to collect the ultimate Hanin flame? Wasn't that just courting death? However, this Zhuowen just had to use this kind of energy. How did this guy get there? The 5 ancestors of the space-time beast race, dragon race, black tiger race, phoenix people, and merman race looked at each other. They were hesitant. Didn't they see the corpse ghost race ancestor being easily killed by the ultimate Hanin flame? Although the corpse ghost clan ancestor was the weakest among the 7 of them, he was still a powerful cultivator at the early stage of the fourth heaven's blight. In just 3 breaths of time, he was burned to death in front of them. This was too terrifying. Everyone, don't be scared by this kid, although I don't know how he obtained the ultimate Hanin flame. But the ultimate Hanin flame is such a high-level energy, it is simply too difficult to collect. This boy definitely didn't have much on him. Perhaps he had already used it up when he killed the corpse ghost clan's old ancestor. This is a rare opportunity. Don't miss it. Wuyang Shua could see that the remaining 5 ancestors were hesitating, and his eyes darkened as he hurriedly said, the patriarch of the space-time beast race had a ferocious glint in his eyes. Brother Wu is right. This kid is already our mortal enemy. It has already reached the point where it's either you die or I die. If we don't get rid of him today, we won't have any peace in the future. The gazes of the other patriarchs darkened as well. Their hearts trembled violently at the reminder of the space-time beast patriarch. The space-time beast ancestor was right. They had already made a life and death feud with Zhuowen. Most importantly, Zhuowen's speed of improvement was simply too fast. It was so fast that they found it unbelievable. Based on Zhuowen's speed of development, if this kid really managed to escape this time, they might not be a match for this kid the next time they came. Let's attack together. This kid can't be left alive. Otherwise, he will definitely be a disaster in the future. The Phoenix people's old ancestor was the first to attack. Endless flowing flames surged around his body as he spread his wings and flew into the sky, forming an incomparably huge fire phoenix in the starry sky. The space-time beast ancestor followed closely behind, manifesting his colossal body. His appearance was that of a gigantic serpent dragon, and wherever he passed, space-time was thrown into chaos. Countless collapsed regions of space-time appeared. The Black Tiger Clan, the Dragon Clan, and the Mermaid Clan's old ancestors strode over in the endless starry sky, revealing their strongest forms and rushing over from all directions. Zhuowen, you're dead meat today. Wuyang Shua's eyes were cold. His body continued to grow taller, and his aura increased at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, it reached its peak state, and his body also reached its peak state. He was like a supreme giant that had existed in this world since ancient times. Without a doubt, Wuyang Shua was the strongest among the 6. Just the aura that erupted from him alone was enough to stir up the winds and clouds in this entire area. It was exceptionally powerful. Deng, deng, deng. Wuyang Shua took one step after another. his speed increasing. The starry sky around him was constantly distorted and collapsed, as if the starry sky was fragile glass. The 6 old ancestor-level powerhouses had finally joined forces to attack. Jiang Ruisi and Du Huacan, who were standing at the entrance of Sanqing Street, revealed a look of shock and uncertainty. They sighed in their hearts. They could already foresee Zhuowen's fate. At the same time, at the end of Sanqing Street, the ice and fire saber god, Xiao Huanyu, slumped on the steps beside him, in a daze. He had already woken up from his unconscious state. Recalling what had just happened, he clenched his fists tightly, and his heart was filled with bitterness. He was a young powerhouse ranked 5th on Sanqing Street. He thought that he could easily defeat Zhuowen, who had recently become famous, and make a name for himself in one battle. However, the reality was cruel. Not only did he lose, but he was also knocked unconscious by his opponent after only 2 moves. He knew very well that Zhuowen had already shown mercy. Otherwise, that move would have been enough to beat him to death. Xiao Huanyu, why are you sitting here looking so listless? Just as Xiao Huanyu was feeling depressed, a crisp voice rang out, causing him to involuntarily raise his head. He saw 3 people walking towards him. The one in the lead was an old Taoist with a celestial aura. On both sides of the old Taoist, there was a young girl who looked like a porcelain doll and a little Taoist child. The one who called out to Xiao Huanyu was the beautiful girl. Xiao Huanyu greets Lord Sanqing. The instant Xiao Huanyu saw the 3 people, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He hurriedly knelt on one knee and bowed, respectfully. He was shocked. He didn't expect that the master of Sanqing Palace, Taoist 3 Purities, would appear here. One had to know that Taoist 3 Purities was the master of Sanqing. Unless something major happened, he wouldn't leave Sanqing Palace. Once he left Sanqing Palace, it meant that something major had happened. Xiao Huanyu suddenly thought of Zhuowen, and a hint of understanding rose in his heart. Perhaps Sanqing had come for Zhuowen. Chapter 3590, Lord 3 Pure. That Zhuowen should have just left 3 Pure Street. If we go out now, we might be able to find him. I'll go with you. Xiao Huanyu hurriedly said. Then let's go together. I hope we can find Zhuowen in advance. Otherwise, he'll be in big trouble. 3 Pure nodded. With a wave of his sleeve, the 4 of them disappeared from the exit of 3 Pure Street. Brother Du, Brother Jiang, why are you at the exit? After Xiao Huanyu followed 3 Pure, he immediately saw Du Huacan and Jiang Ruisi at the exit. However, the 2 of them were in a strange state. They were actually standing on the spot, motionless, as if they were hit by a body immobilization technique. 3 Pure's eyes narrowed. With a wave of his sleeve, Du Huacan and Jiang Ruisi immediately regained their mobility. Phew! Du Huacan and Jiang Ruisi heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed to 3 Pure to express their thanks. 3 Pure waved his hand. His gaze landed on the starry sky in front of him. There, a figure calmly floated in the starry sky. His back was straight like a spear, and around this figure, there were 6 figures with incomparably vast and terrifying auras that were rapidly closing in on it. Each of these 6 figures had a terrifying aura. They were all 4th Earth's Blight experts. Space-Time Beast Race, Dragon Race, Black Tiger Race, Phoenix People, Mermaid Race, and the 2nd floor master of the Wu Tower, Wuyang Shuo? No, that's Zhuowen. They're surrounding Zhuowen. Lian Meng, who was standing beside 3 Pure Ones, immediately recognized the 6 figures with terrifying auras. She also saw Zhuowen, who was surrounded by the 6 supreme experts. Lian Meng's emotions fluctuated greatly. She hurriedly looked at 3 Pure and said, Master, Quickly save Zhuowen. He's no match for these 6 people. He'll die. Xiao Huanyu's pupils shrank to the size of needles. He was completely dumbfounded as he muttered to himself, "No way! Isn't this a little too exaggerated?" The desolate street actually sent out 6 ancestor-level powerhouses. Xiao Huanyu really did not expect that the desolate street would actually value Zhuowen so much that they would not hesitate to send out such a huge lineup. At the same time, he sighed in his heart. He knew that Zhuowen was definitely going to die. It was impossible for him to survive by luck. Any one of the 6 patriarchs could easily kill him. Although Zhuowen was much stronger than him, he still didn't think that Zhuowen would be a match for a 4th Blight expert. Moreover, amongst the 6 of them, there was a peak 4th Blight expert like Wu Yangshua. How were they supposed to fight? Moreover, Xiao Huanyu could also see that the 6 old ancestors were too close to Zhuowen. Even if the 3 pure ones took action now, it would be too late. Zhuowen's fate was already decided. There was no suspense. Du Huaqian and Zhang Ruisi's faces turned pale as they shook their heads inwardly. They had already seen through the situation and knew that if Zhuowen didn't have more ultimate Hanin flames, he would definitely die this time. Of course, a terrifying energy like the ultimate Han-in flame was simply too rare. Just now, Zhuowen had used it and killed the corpse Ghost Clan's ancestor by surprise. In their opinion, Zhuowen shouldn't have any more trump cards like the ultimate Han-in flame. The 3 pure ones frowned. He shook his head and said, "It's too late. The distance is too far. When I rush over, the 6 of them will be enough to tear Zhuowen into pieces." Lian Meng's pretty face turned pale. Her lips trembled, and her delicate body trembled. Asterisk crash. Asterisk finally, the strongest attacks of the 6 old ancestors all landed on Zhuowen's body. The terrifying light was like a blazing sun that fell and exploded. The light spread throughout the entire starry sky as if everything in the surroundings had turned into day and was no longer dark. At the same time, within the blazing light, a strange white flame surged. It was like a white python that suddenly jumped out and constantly swallowed the light around it. Ah! Suddenly, a scream rang out. Then, a figure flew out of the light. The figure was completely enveloped by the white flame. As he flew out, his physical body was constantly disintegrating. In the end, he was annihilated before everyone's eyes. "It's the Black Tiger Clan's ancestor." Xiao Huanyu's eyes widened as he exclaimed. However, before he could finish speaking, 2 more figures were enveloped by the white flame and flew out. Their bodies also gradually dissipated under the flames. The Dragon Clan's ancestor and the Mermaid Clan's ancestor, they actually... Du Huaqian and Zhang Ruisi also reacted. When they saw the 2 figures, they almost cried out in surprise. Lian Meng's beautiful eyes became brighter and brighter. She saw the 4th and 5th figures fly out of the light. They were the Phoenix People's ancestor and the Space-Time Beast Clan's ancestor. The 2 ancestors' bodies were disintegrating. Their miserable screams continued to ring out. It was simply too tragic. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk the moment the Phoenix People and Space-Time Beast Clan's ancestor flew out. The endless light was completely devoured by the white flame. In the center of the endless white flame, a deep passage was formed. A figure slowly walked out of it like a god. "You want to kill me, Zhuowen? You're not qualified." Zhuowen slowly walked to the front of the white flame. Then, the white flame behind him suddenly formed a terrifying flame vortex that violently spun and tore apart. Within the flame vortex, muffled groans could be heard. It was Wu Yangshua of the Shaman Tower who was trapped in the flame vortex formed by the ultimate Hanin flames. He was struggling to resist the suppression of the ultimate Hanin flames. At this moment, None of the 5 ancestors who were sent flying were spared. All of their bodies and souls were burned by the ultimate Hanin flame. Zhuowen calmly raised his head and turned around. Looking at the flame vortex behind him, he frowned slightly. Within the flame vortex, he could faintly see Wu Yangshua's figure, struggling to resist the corrosion of the flames. Zhuowen was a little surprised. This Wu Yangshua was really not ordinary. He was the one who endured the most power of the ultimate Hanin flames, yet he was still able to hold on until now, as expected of the second strongest person in the Shaman Tower. How is this possible? Zhuowen, how can you have so much ultimate Hanin flames? Wu Yangshua roared. His eyes were red, as if he had gone mad. He was truly stunned. The amount of Hanin flames that Zhuo, when released, surpassed the amount of Hanin flames formed by a normal 5th blight. Even an early 5th blight cultivator would find it difficult to endure being surrounded by Hanin flames like this. Don't worry, I still have more ultimate Hanin flames. They're all reserved for you. Zhuowen flicked his finger. An even fiercer white flame surged out from the golden ring on his finger and instantly rushed into the flame vortex. Instantly, the flame vortex's power increased by several times. Wu Yangshua let out a miserable cry and completely lost all signs of life. He had actually been burned to death by the flames. Standing at the exit, 3 Pure Ones trembled. An indescribable ripple finally appeared in his calm eyes. Xiao Huanyu, Du Huaqian, Jiang Ruisi, Lian Meng, and the others were all dumbfounded and fell into a long silence. Chapter 3591. Oh my God! Wu Yangshua and the other 5 ancestor-level experts were killed just like that. Xiao Huanyu was the first to react. His legs were trembling. If it weren't for the last bit of reason left in him, he would have knelt down. He recalled that he'd actually made a move against Zhuowen just now. This couldn't be described as being ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth. It was purely courting death. Fortunately, Zhuowen didn't kill him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be alive right now. Brother Xiao, you're wrong. Zhuowen didn't kill 6 ancestor-level experts, but 7. Before you came, he had already killed the ancestor of the corpse, Ghost Clan. Du Huaqian and Jiang Ruisi also came back to their senses and corrected Xiao Huanyu. Xiao Huanyu's mouth was wide open. He immediately smiled bitterly and said, "He really lives up to his reputation. Although Zhuowen's cultivation is similar to mine, he can already fight with a 5th blight expert." 3 Pure Ones remained silent from the beginning to the end. He silently looked at Zhuowen with a complicated look in his eyes, and his eyelids twitching slightly. Zhuowen's progress was too fast, completely beyond his expectations. But soon, 3 Pure Ones calmed down. In his opinion, Zhuowen's only reliance was the ultimate in fire. This fire was indeed terrifying, but it might not be able to hurt him. After all, his cultivation had reached the peak of the 5th blight, and he was an expert standing at the peak of the heaven accessing place. After Zhuowen killed Wu Yangshua, he flicked his finger and used the golden ring to collect the remaining ultimate in fire. After discovering that there wasn't much ultimate in fire left in the ring, Zhuowen felt quite pained. In the battle just now, he had once again used 1/3 of the ultimate in fire. Now, there really wasn't much ultimate in fire left in the ring. After doing this, Zhuowen's gaze fell on the white-haired Taoist at the exit of Sanqing Street. He nodded slightly, turned into a streamer, and left the place. He left just like that. Xiao Huanyu, Du Huaqian, and Jiang Ruisi were dumbfounded. The 3 Pure Ones were at least the rulers of the 3 pure streets. They held high positions and were deeply respected by countless practitioners in the heaven accessing place. This Zhuowen's attitude was actually so arrogant. He only nodded and left. Wasn't that too rude? Master, why didn't you make him stay? He had killed Wu Yangshuo and the others, and Wu Taiji would soon find out. At that time, Wu Taiji would definitely not let this matter rest. Right now, he's in great danger. Lian Meng said with a complicated expression. Three Pure Ones said calmly, Lian Meng, can't you tell? The current Zhuowen is not as weak as you think. Besides, he has the ultimate Yin fire of Han. If Wu Taiji and I don't do anything, no one in the heaven accessing place can do anything to him. And if Wu Taiji really is shameless enough to attack, I won't just stand by and watch. You don't have to worry too much about him. Let's go back to the palace of three purities. As he spoke, three pure ones looked deeply in the direction that Zhuowen had left. He knew that Zhuowen must have gone to the nightmare abyss to look for the scorpion worm. Lian Meng hesitated for a moment and nodded. Three Pure Ones was right. The strength that Zhuowen had just displayed was indeed terrifying. Even Wu Yangshuo, the second in command of the Wu Tower, had been killed. Then, in the heaven accessing place, there were only a few people who could kill Zhuowen. Xiao Huanyu, Du Huacan, and Jiang Ruisi followed closely behind, their eyes surging with excitement. They had secretly recorded this battle with a crystal ball. The moment the crystal ball spread, the whole heaven accessing place would be shaken. Bang! In the Wu Tower, Wu Taiji slammed the table in front of him, smashing it into pieces. Dead. They're all dead. How could Zhuowen have killed Wu Yangshuo and the others? Wu Taiji's eyes were red. He looked at the sorcerer tribe practitioner kneeling in front of him and roared at the top of his lungs. The sorcerer tribe practitioner knelt on the ground, his forehead covered in cold sweat. When he learned that Wu Yangshuo and the other 6 ancestors had died, he felt that it was unbelievable. Tower Master, according to our intelligence, Zhuowen's cultivation seems to be around the 3rd blight, but he has a terrifying flame. He used this flame to turn the tables and kill Wu Yangshuo and the others. The sorcerer tribe practitioner said hesitantly, "What kind of flame is it?" Wu Taiji calmed down. He took a deep breath and asked coldly, "The ultimate Yin flame." The sorcerer tribe practitioner said in a low voice, "The ultimate Yin flame? How could this little bastard have such a flame?" Wu Taiji frowned, his heart skipping a beat. He knew that if Zhuowen really had the ultimate Yin flame, Wu Yangshuo and the others were indeed no match for Zhuowen. The ultimate Yin flame was the ultimate blight energy that appeared when a practitioner was going through the 5th blight. Its power was extremely terrifying. Once this flame appeared, any practitioner below the 5th blight would find it hard to resist. Where did Zhuowen go after that? Wu Taiji asked in a slightly irritated tone. It seems like he went to the nightmare abyss, the sorcerer tribe practitioner said. Send people to monitor the nightmare abyss. The moment Zhuowen leaves the nightmare abyss, inform me immediately. This kid is a huge disaster. We must get rid of him as soon as possible. A sense of danger rose in Wu Taiji's heart. This Zhuowen's improvement was too fast. Last time, many 3rd blight practitioners worked together to kill this kid. Not only were they unable to kill him, but they were also killed by him. And now, Wu Yangshuo led 6 ancestors to kill him again, but they were also killed by this kid. Not long after the 2 attacks, this kid's strength had undergone an earth-shattering change. This speed of growth made Wu Taiji feel fear in his heart. Yes, the sorcerer tribe practitioner nodded and slowly left. Not long after the sorcerer tribe practitioner left, Wu Xiangjuan silently appeared in the room. Wuji, even if that Zhuowen appears from the nightmare abyss, you won't have a chance to attack. 3 Pure Ones, those old farts won't let you attack. Wu Xiangjuan said. Wu Taiji rubbed his temples and said with a slight headache, Xiangjuan, how could I not know? But Zhuowen must die. His improvement is too fast. If we don't kill him as soon as possible, he will become the second 3 pure ones. At that time, our great desolate street will be in danger. Wu Xiangjuan frowned. Taiji, I know about this even if you don't say it, but that Zhuowen was able to kill Wu Yangshua, which means that he has at least the strength of an early 5th Blight practitioner. Unless you attack, no one in the great desolate street is his match. Wu Taiji coldly snorted. Humph. This kid was able to kill Wu Yangshua because he relied on the Hanin flame. Once he loses this, he won't even be a match for a 4th Blight practitioner. But this kid was able to get the Hanin flame, which means that he has some methods. Also, we don't know if he still has such a flame. If he still has it, no matter how many assassins we send, it will be useless. Wu Xiangjuan said. Chapter 3592. What about the 3 pure ones? Wu Xiangjuan asked. Wu Taiji sneered. A few days ago, I received another message from Lord Bing Hui. It said that he's come out of seclusion early and is now on his way to our galaxy. Wu Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. Really? I thought Lord Bing Hui would take a long time to come out of seclusion. I didn't expect it to be so soon. Hee. As long as Lord Bing Hui comes, the 3 pure ones won't dare to interfere. Besides, the 3 pure ones are only pretending to be obedient. Lord Bing Hui already knows about it. When the time comes, those old guys will have to bear the consequences. Wu Taiji sneered. Outside the nightmare abyss, a crowd was surging. Zhuowen stood in a floating square and stared at the stone statue of a woman standing in front of him. The stone statue of a woman was extremely beautiful. It had a human body and a snake tail. Its eyes, in particular, shone with a strange light. The stone statue of a woman was the entrance to the nightmare abyss. Zhuowen stared at the eyes of the stone statue of a woman. He saw a strange purple light. Then he felt the world spin. Then he was enveloped by the purple light and disappeared from the square. Not long after Zhuowen entered the nightmare abyss, several figures came from the direction of the Chaos Street. They were all sorcerer tribe cultivators. After they landed in the square, they disguised themselves as street vendors and set up their stalls near the stone statue. They shouted for business as if nothing had happened. When Zhuowen opened his eyes, he found that he was in the ruins of a ruined hall. At this moment, there were many cultivators coming and going. Zhuowen knew that he had entered the nightmare abyss. The environment inside the nightmare abyss was not much different from the outside world. The only difference was that he could feel a mysterious power inside. This power was suppressing his divine soul, causing him to feel a faint stabbing pain. Zhuowen looked around and found that other than the ruins of the hall, there was a passage leading to the depths of the abyss. There were stone pillars on both sides of the passage, and the top of the stone pillars flickered with a dim light. Other than the dim light, the passage was completely dark. Zhuowen also noticed that most of the cultivators were exploring the ruins of the hall. Almost no one entered the passage. The area of the ruins was very large, almost equivalent to a large city with a population of 10 million. Zhuowen had a headache. From the jade strip that Lian Meng had given him, he knew that Sai's corpse was placed in the nightmare nunnery in the depths of the nightmare abyss. Other than that, the jade slip did not provide a route to the nightmare nunnery. This made Zhuowen feel a little helpless. He could not possibly search for the nightmare nunnery like a headless fly after entering this place, right? Look, isn't that circling Tianhan? He's publicly acknowledged as the strongest expert of the 3 Purities Street's new generation. It's said that he's a peerless genius with the greatest hope of catching up to Lord Three Purities in the future. He actually came to the Nightmare Abyss. Don't you know? It's said that Rao Tianhan wants to barge into the Nightmare Nunnery and seize the corpse of ancestral shaman Sai. It's said that it's because of the promise of the Three Pure Ones. In the past, the Three Pure Ones once said that if anyone could bring him CZ's corpse in Nightmare Nunnery, he would promise that person a favor. Everyone knows that Rao Tianhan likes Lian Meng. He's probably going to the Nightmare Nunnery to seize CZ's corpse because of Lian Meng. Suddenly, a clamor sounded in the surroundings. Zhuowen looked in the direction of the sound and saw a figure standing quietly at the entrance of the hall's only passageway. From his posture, it was obvious that they were preparing to enter the depths of the passageway. This was a rather young man who carried an ice-blue divine sword on his back. His short hair that reached his shoulders hung down loosely, and his entire body emitted a sharp light that was difficult to look at. Rao Tianhan didn't wait for long before two more figures came over and walked to his side. These two figures were a man and a woman. The man was very tall and sturdy and was bald. The woman's appearance was very ordinary. She looked to be around 30 years old, but her chest was very full, and her figure was even more hot. It's Tang Taihong and Mei Jinwen. These two people are the second and third experts of the Three Purities Street's new generation. Are these three experts really going to the Nightmare Nunnery? Everyone was surprised, and the discussion was extremely heated. Brother Tang, Miss Mei, I might have to trouble the two of you this time. Rao Tianhan nodded at the two and said rather solemnly. Tang Taihong laughed and said, "Hee, compared to your favor, what's the big deal about the Nightmare Nunnery? After all, there will definitely be a place for you in the heaven-accessing secret land in the future. I'm investing in you in advance." Mei Jinwen rebuked. "Tianhan, you're being a little unreasonable. I'm obviously unparalleled in beauty, and I'm better than Lian Meng in every way. You're actually willing to go to the Nightmare Nunnery for her. I'm very sad." Rao Tianhan's face darkened, and he said, "All right, stop fooling around. The Nightmare Nunnery is the most dangerous place in the Nightmare Abyss. Even if the three of us join forces, we still have to be careful. We can't be careless." Tang Taihong and Mei Jinwen stopped joking, and their faces became solemn. They knew how terrifying the Nightmare Abyss was, and there were even rumors that there were unprecedented terrors in the Nightmare Abyss. The Nightmare Nunnery was the core of the Nightmare Abyss, and there was no need to mention how terrifying it was. Even if Rao Tianhan didn't say it, they didn't dare to neglect it. Just as the three of them were about to set off, a figure stopped them. "Who are you? Why are you blocking the way?" Rao Tianhan looked at the young man in front of him, frowned slightly, and said with some displeasure, I recognize you. Aren't you Zhuowen, the one who's been talking about in the heaven-accessing secret land recently? Didn't you escape from the heaven-accessing secret land? Why are you still here now?" Mei Jinwen sized up Zhuowen and immediately said Zhuowen's identity. "He's Zhuowen, the one who's been famous recently. He doesn't look particularly powerful. He's very ordinary." As soon as Mei Jinwen said this, the surrounding crowd was in an uproar, and there was a lot of discussion. Rao Tianhan's gaze was strange. He had heard of Zhuowen's deeds. It was said that some time ago, the Wizard Clan, the Corpse Clan, the Space-Time Beast Clan, the Dragon Clan, the Black Tiger Clan, the Phoenix People, and the Mermaid Clan sent out a team. There were a total of 7 people in this team, and all of them were powerhouses above the Third Blight. They surrounded and killed Zhuowen together. But in the end, not only did they not kill Zhuowen, but 5 of them were killed and 2 of them fled. After this battle, Zhuowen's name shook the entire heaven-accessing secret land, and everyone knew about him. Of course, Zhuowen had just killed Wu Yangshua and the others, so very few cultivators in the heaven-accessing secret land knew that Zhuowen had experienced a second encirclement. The cultivators of the nightmare abyss didn't even know. If they knew that Zhuowen had single-handedly killed a team of 7 Fourth Blight powerhouses, including Wu Yangshua, who was at the peak of the Fourth Blight, their expressions would only be more interesting. After Rao Tianhan sized up Zhuowen, he calmed down and said, "Taoist Zhuowen, I know you're very famous recently, but I don't know why you're blocking my way when we have no enmity." Zhuowen being able to kill 7 Third Blight powerhouses really interested Rao Tianhan, but he wasn't afraid. He was the strongest person of the new generation on the Sanqing Street, and his cultivation had reached the early Fourth Blight. Chapter 3593. Zhuowen cupped his fists and said, "I also want to go to Nightmare Nunnery, but I don't know its exact location. I heard that the 3 of you want to go to Nightmare Nunnery, so I have a presumptuous request." Rao Tianhan looked at Zhuowen and said coldly, "You want to go to Nightmare Nunnery with us?" Rao Tianhan's main purpose of going to Nightmare Nunnery was Ancestral Shaman Size Corpse. Zhuowen also wanted to go to Nightmare Nunnery for the Ancestral Shaman's Corpse. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in the Ancestral Shaman's Corpse." Zhuowen smiled. The Ancestral Shaman's Corpse was indeed not of much use to him. What he wanted was the Ancestral Shaman's venomous worms. "Oh, then what's your purpose in going to Nightmare Nunnery? I'm sure you've heard of the dangers there. Although you fought 1 against 7 and defeated 7 Third Blight experts from the Great Desolate Street, your strength wasn't ordinary. But in Nightmare Nunnery, your strength is still not enough. Even I might be in danger of dying, let alone you. You still plan to go?" Rao Tianhan shook his head. "Why not?" Zhuowen smiled faintly. Rao Tianhan frowned slightly. He looked at Mei Jinwen and Tang Taihong beside him with an inquisitive look. He. Tianhan, just let him join. He's not weak. After all, he defeated 7 Third Blight powerhouses together. He must have his own unique points. Mei Jinwen chuckled. "I don't care." Tang Taihong shrugged. "All right, you can follow us, but you must listen to my orders," Rao Tianhan said. "And I won't act on my own when we're going to Nightmare Nunnery," Zhuowen said faintly. After the team was confirmed, Rao Tianhan led Zhuowen, Tang Taihong, and Mei Jinwen into the depths of the only passage in the ruins of the main hall and quickly disappeared into the darkness. "Be careful, all of you. The Nightmare Abyss is completely different from the other danger zones. Most of the living beings here are formless soul bodies. These souls are best at seducing souls. If one's mind isn't strong enough, or if one's soul is weak, it's very easy to be seduced to death." After entering the depths of the tunnel, most of the areas were dark. Only a few faint lights flickered in the darkness. Rao Tianhan walked at the front and didn't forget to remind the 3 people behind him. Mei Jinwen and Tang Taihong's expressions had already become extremely solemn. When they entered the dark area in the depths of the tunnel, they could clearly feel gusts of cold wind surging around them. These chilly winds were very strange. They were shapeless and formless, but they could affect their souls, causing them to feel confused. They knew that these Yin winds should be the soul bodies that Rao Tianhan had mentioned. They had the ability to reel in souls. Thus, they kept their wits and slowly followed behind Rao Tianhan. Zhuowen walked at the back. When he entered the dark area, he had already discovered the souls in the surrounding Yin wind. He originally thought that the souls in the Yin wind would corrode Rao Tianhan's side and rush towards his glabella in an attempt to invade his soul. However, this wasn't the case. When the Yin wind formed by the souls was a few feet away from his body, they all circled around him as if they were afraid of him. In order to confirm his guess, Zhuowen took the initiative to approach the Yin wind. However, he discovered that the Yin wind fled a few feet away. They didn't want to come into contact with Zhuowen at all. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He knew that his guess was right. These Yin wind souls were indeed afraid of him. He looked ahead again and saw Rao Tianhan and the other two people who were constantly sweeping towards him. He knew that the reason these Yin winds were afraid of him wasn't because his soul was far stronger than the three of them, but because his soul contained the primordial stone. The primordial stone was too mysterious. Back then, the primordial stone had repaired his collapsed soul and had already fused with his soul, causing his soul to become extremely extraordinary. In addition, his soul had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. It was understandable that these Yin winds formed by the souls were afraid of him. However, Zhuowen was very low-key and tried his best not to come into contact with the surrounding Yin winds. Therefore, Rao Tianhan and the other two didn't notice Zhuowen's abnormality. Rao Tianhan and the others were all extraordinary people. Although the surrounding Yin winds were getting stronger and stronger, they were still able to withstand it with their strength. The group of four shuttled through the darkness for nearly 5 days. Finally, Rao Tianhan stopped. "We're about to reach the Nightmare Nunnery. All of you be careful. The Yin winds around the Nightmare Nunnery are probably the most terrifying. It's said that a terrifying soul called the Nightmare Ghost will appear. Even a half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse can easily be played to death by the Nightmare Ghost if they're not careful." Rao Tianhan said in a deep voice. Mei Jinwen and Tang Taihong's expressions were solemn. They looked ahead at the same time. There, they could vaguely see a faintly discernible nunnery. This nunnery wasn't big. It occupied an area of, at most, 100 square meters. In the dark area, it emitted a faint light. The nunnery was surrounded by layers of black fog. The black fog churned, and the occasional gap that leaked out allowed Rao Tianhan and the others to clearly see the temple's appearance. However, most of the time, the temple was covered by the black fog, and it was difficult to clearly see its appearance. After Zhuowen glanced at the faintly discernible Nightmare Nunnery, he focused all his attention on the black fog around the nunnery. He could faintly sense that the soul within the black fog was much more terrifying than the Yin winds they'd encountered before. It was definitely not an ordinary soul energy. Rao Tianhan and the other two could clearly see the terror and extraordinariness of the black fog, so their expressions became extremely solemn. "Fellow Taoist Zhua, this is the last step to enter the Nightmare Nunnery. It's also the most dangerous step. Your cultivation is the lowest among the four of us. If you continue to follow us, I'm afraid your life will be in danger. It's not too late for you to turn back now." Rao Tianhan suddenly turned to look at Zhuowen. During this period of time, he had already sensed that Zhuowen's specific cultivation was only at the late stage of the third decay. Rao Tianhan's cultivation was already at the early stage of the fourth decay. Although Mei Jinwen and Tang Taihong were inferior to him, they were also at the peak of the third decay. Their cultivations were much higher than Zhuowen's. "It's fine. I'll follow you into the Nightmare Nunnery. Perhaps when you're in danger, I can help you," Zhuowen said indifferently. Hearing this, Rao Tianhan frowned slightly. He was very dissatisfied with Zhuowen's attitude. After all, he had kindly advised him for the sake of Zhuowen, but this guy didn't appreciate it, and even said that he could help him. He was thinking too highly of himself. "Your cultivation is only at the late stage of the third decay, far inferior to the three of them. How can you help them? You'll only be a burden to them." Mei Jinwen smiled. "Since fellow Taoist Zhua insists on following us into the Nightmare Nunnery, then we won't say anything. However, If fellow Taoist Zhuo encounters any danger, we may be unable to help. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly. It's fine. I'll take care of myself. There's no need for the three of you to worry about me. Chapter 35:94. At the same time, the three of them each took out a golden talisman. The three talismans had a corresponding connection with each other. The golden light they emitted intertwined and formed a cone shape between the three of them, enveloping their surroundings. After the golden cone was formed, the surrounding Yin winds didn't dare to approach the three of them and retreated. Zhuowen silently watched the three of them leave. He also knew what Rao Tianhan was thinking. He felt that Zhuowen was a burden, so he didn't want to bring him along when they reached the periphery of the nightmare nunnery. As for whether he lived or died, Rao Tianhan didn't care. Zhuowen shook his head and smiled. From the beginning to the end, he really didn't want to rely on them. He only followed them because he wanted them to lead the way. Now that Rao Tianhan and the other two had left, it was a good thing for him. At least he didn't need to be as restrained as before. Zhuowen stomped his right foot and shot toward the nightmare nunnery like an arrow leaving the bow. Wherever he passed, countless Yin winds avoided him as if they had met their natural enemy. They didn't dare to approach Zhuowen at all. After a while, Zhuowen rushed into the black fog. What a powerful Yin wind! The moment Zhuowen entered the black fog, waves of even more terrifying Yin winds swept over. Furthermore, when these chilly winds rushed over, he could hear the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. It was as if countless ferocious ghosts were screaming beside him. However, when these Yin winds were about a foot away from Zhuowen, they let out shrill cries that were filled with fear. Then, they all circled around Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't show any complacency. Instead, he revealed a solemn expression. The Yin winds outside the black fog could only get a few feet away from him, but the Yin winds inside the black fog could get a foot away from him. It was obvious that the Yin winds inside the black fog were much more powerful than the Yin winds outside. If there was an even more powerful soul body in the nightmare nunnery, it would probably be able to injure his divine soul. Thinking of this, Zhuowen didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. He followed the black fog and approached the nightmare nunnery. Soon, Zhuowen heard three screams not far away. Zhuowen wasn't unfamiliar with these three screams. They belonged to Rao Tianhan and the other two. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. In the end, he rushed toward the screams. Soon, he saw Rao Tianhan and the other two at the end of the black fog, which was the area near the entrance of the nightmare nunnery. Rao Tianhan and the other two's eyes were tightly shut. Their faces were pale, their bodies and trembling as they stood on the spot. Their foreheads were already covered in cold sweat, and even their backs were soaked with sweat. Zhuowen noticed that above Rao Tianhan and the other two, there was a sinister face formed by black mist. It was hovering and emitting a bone-chilling laughter. Is this the nightmare that Rao? Zhuowen looked at the ferocious face formed by the black fog with a grave expression. When Zhuowen looked at the king of nightmares, the latter also noticed Zhuowen. The nightmare sneered. That eerie laughter became more and more terrifying and strange. Then it instantly rushed out and silently appeared behind Zhuowen. It opened its mouth and directly swallowed Zhuowen. Zhuowen only felt his vision turn black. He realized that he seemed to have fallen into some kind of illusion. Various memories of the past flashed past his eyes, and these memories were constantly leading him to recall more things. These memories were like reincarnation, making him sink into them and unable to extricate himself. But soon, the huge purple lake in Zhuowen's divine soul suddenly exploded, and a magnificent aura spread out. It was also at this moment that the flashing memories completely stopped, and Zhuowen also opened his eyes at this moment. Huh, you actually escaped from my nightmare illusory realm? At this moment, the nightmare was circling above Zhuowen's head, and Zhuowen was surrounded by a black fog. This black fog formed many black pythons, and they were constantly entangling Zhuowen. Boom! Zhuowen frowned slightly, and a magnificent aura exploded. A mysterious purple light surged from between his eyebrows, and it instantly shot out. The black pythons that were entangling him dissipated, and then the purple light was like a sword that shot into the sky and swept towards the nightmare formed by the black fog. Bam! The nightmare was caught off guard, and it was directly hit by the purple light, and it dissipated, screaming in pain. What kind of power is this? How can it suppress my nightmare's soul power? The nightmare's dissipated body quickly reformed, and it didn't dare to get close to Zhuowen, and it quickly moved away. However, Zhuowen wasn't going to let the nightmare go so easily. He mobilized the purple lake in his divine soul, and condensed rays of purple light that shot out and enveloped the nightmare. The nightmare screamed again and again as it was continuously destroyed by the power of the purple light. In the end, it completely lost its aura. After the nightmare collapsed, the black fog that enveloped the nightmare nunnery kept rolling, and then it turned into gusts of cold wind that quickly dissipated. In an instant, the faintly discernible nightmare nunnery became much clearer. Zhuowen took a step forward and arrived at the entrance of the nightmare nunnery. He didn't hesitate and directly stepped into the nightmare nunnery. Not long after Zhuowen entered the nightmare nunnery, Rao Tianhan and the other two, who were originally trapped in the nightmare's illusion, finally slowly opened their eyes. The three of them looked at each other, and they were all covered in cold sweat. I'm afraid we were entangled by the nightmares just now. If we couldn't escape from the dreamland created by the nightmares in time, our souls would have been devoured by the nightmares, and we would have become mindless walking corpses. Rao Tianhan understood everything that had happened. His face was incomparably pale, and he muttered to himself with lingering fear. Mei Jinwen and Tang Taihong's expressions were even worse, and their hearts were filled with lingering fear. They knew that they had just walked through the gates of hell. The black fog around the nightmare nunnery has disappeared, and so has the nightmare. The reason why we were able to wake up is probably because someone removed the nightmare. Otherwise, we would still be in the illusion of the nightmare. Mei Jinwen suddenly reacted. Who was it that saved us and had the ability to destroy the nightmare? Tang Taihong revealed a thoughtful look and suddenly said, "Could it be that Zhuowen?" Rao Tianhan and Mei Jinwen were shocked at first, but then Rao Tianhan shook his head and said, "That's impossible. That Zhuowen's cultivation is even inferior to ours. How could he have the ability to destroy the nightmare?" Tianhan is right, that Zhuowen doesn't have the ability. It should be a senior who passed by and casually saved our lives. Mei Jinwen said in a deep voice, "The two of you have reached the last step. The nightmare nunnery is close by. Are you willing to enter the nightmare nunnery with me?" Rao Tianhan cupped his fists at Mei Jinwen and Tang Taihong.